Alrighty, folks, welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host Mike from PA. We are live once again, and oh my Lord in heaven, do we have a stream for you today? Well, I don't even know how to start. Clarence Thomas delivered what amounts to a call for war in the United States, domestically, civil war. He may be one of the most intellectually backward trolls to ever live. The lieutenant governor of Virginia just killed himself and his wife. Former lieutenant governor. The blockade in Iran, Strait of Hormuz, continues unchanged. Europe is now 6 weeks away from running out of jet fuel. What else was I saying? Oh, and more important than ever, somebody sent me a clip of Hassan saying I was right. So I'd say all of those things are roughly equal in importance for the world. There's also some good news as well. Abdul El Sayed is surging in Michigan. Chat, how many of you filed your taxes yesterday on time? I filed my taxes. I filed an extension, guilty as charged. I tried to estimate 90% of what I think I'll owe. I usually get it pretty close. Somebody said, I don't pay my taxes, fuck the IRS. Listen. If, you know, I would never recommend that anyone not pay their taxes. I say, follow the law. However, they have fired a lot of IRS agents. Yeah, they've lost 7,000. Oh, wait. Yeah, they lost like at least 7,000 agents, right? Only less than 1% of the more than 7,000 probationary workers fired from the U.S. Internal Revenue Service earlier this year on performance grounds were actually documented underachievers. They've been firing a lot of IRS agents. So, yeah. Summer Lee on I've Had It.
All right, joining us today on...
I'm so excited for her. I really am. As you know, Chad, I've been a Summer Lee simp. Summer Lee Simpson since day one. I was the original Summer Lee rider. It is what it is. Pretty incredible. Anytime someone says, by the way, chat, I've been posting this picture from the stream. You know how people take clips out of context? Whenever somebody says Assad is anti-black, I just dropped this. Screenshot from the stream. You definitely put me on, and I got another Homer interested in politics because of her. Of course, she's awesome. And again, she represents a district that's 76% white. What are you licking? Oh yeah. Oh no. DSA Lickle? Oh no. Yeah, I ate Warhead pickle on VO's stream. I don't know what the big deal was. It's, you know, how pink that stream lighting is. It was pretty crunchy. It wasn't bad. The Warhead pickle wasn't bad. If you like really tart pickles. What else was I saying? Oh yeah. Good news. Abdul El Sayed is surging. America's views of China are improving. Personally, I think it's crazy that I mean, it was as high as 43% favorable back in 2012. Was China more developed or less developed than they are in 2012? The answer is significantly less developed. So what happened here? A bunch of propaganda happened. Insane propaganda that's total bullshit. But now people are starting to break out of it. And what could he even say? Yeah, COVID definitely didn't help. That's for sure. COVID definitely didn't help. A lot of people blame China for COVID. And it's like diseases pop up all the time. Like, I'm pretty sure the Spanish flu was American. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how disease happens. It has random spawns. So, well, what was I gonna say? Oh, I made a tweet, chat. Biggest Republican donors in the first quarter of 2026. Miriam Adelson, 41 million. Anderson Horowitz, 28 million. Jeff Yass, 21 million. Dick and Liz Uline, 19 million. And Paul Singer, 17 million. What do you guys, what do you guys have anything in common for any of these people? Are you noticing anything about these people? The answer is They're all Zionists. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy that we just have a foreign government spies bribing our politicians. Jeff Yass is from Pennsylvania. He's Pennsylvania's billionaire. Isn't that cool? A registered libertarian, guys. He's a libertarian. So, Zionist, Jeff Yass. Here's Paul Singer, Zionist. Let's just go through them all. Now, the Ulines are basically fail. He's a fail son. Like, he's just a trust fund baby. John Birch Society Finance Committee. So, I'm sorry. 4 out of the 5 were Zionists. 1 anti-Semite and 4 Zionists. Sorry. Did you see this amazing video for Platter? Did you see the amazing Reddit posts? Mike was right about Graham Platter. Could someone bring out the new Reddit posts? Everybody who was like, oh, thank you guys for the 10 subs, by the way. If anybody gifted, let me, it's just risky 7. Thank you for the 5 gifted. You're the best. Did you see the badass Reddit posts he had? Graham Plattner praised Hamas tactics in 2014 graphic video of murders of Israeli soldiers. Murders of soldiers? What? Were they out on leave at home? Like, what happened? Oh, they were in a fucking they were in a military checkpoint. From a strictly professional standpoint, this was a damn fine looking and successful raid against a superior opponent. I dig it. You know who I dig? Graham Plattner. You know who I dig? Graham Plattner. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we need men like this in our movement. I am unironically saying, not only am I saying that Graham Plattner is it's okay that he was a soldier in the past or whatever. I'm saying I objectively want men like this in our movement. The more men, the better. Like this. More. I want more guys that can help me analyze Hamas's tactics. That is a skill. And not enough people in our movement have that skill. So Graham Plattner in, I was right. I don't mind saying it. Mike, did you see Hegseth use the fake Bible verse from Pulp Fiction? Did you guys see that they're attacking the Catholic Church and they took money away from a homeless child charity in Florida because the Pope they're disagreeing with the Pope? Actual Antichrist behavior. Hey, sad girl, what's up? Actual Antichrist behavior to the extreme. And, you know, I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying Plattner is based. Plattner is fucking based. I was kind of like, I was worried that maybe he's putting something on. But if you're telling me 12 years ago, when I was a progressive liberal wearing a tie, going, I think we need to have some incubators at our colleges and universities. Like, if I was saying that shit in 2014 and he was evaluating Hamas raids and digging it, who the fuck are we? He's mid at best. This is the political equivalent of looking at Salma Hayek and saying 4 out of 7, she's not that hot. Compared to who? Why are you using a 7 scale, bro? Because Clavicular uses a scale out of 8, and I think it's funny. One of the senators who voted against Bernie Sanders' resolution to halt sales of Israel as my state. What would be the best thing I could do to show strong disapproval? Call his office and yell at the staffers. It'll be fucking based. But stop believing in any of the patriotic nonsense that got me there in the first place. And I'm a firm believer that the best thing a person could do is help their neighbors and live a loving life. When I'm tired and I'm just forcing out my voice and it gets that nasally, somebody tell me. Like, honestly, someone say, Mike, take a drink. You're sounding horrible. God damn, does that sound bad? You always sound nasally. I honest to God, I think I need to like fiddle with my EQ because I don't sound that nasally. I could play videos of me recording on my phone and shit that doesn't sound that bad. Jesus Christ. Your voice always sounds like that, like it's forced. Yeah, I think I'm talking too loudly into the mic as well. I think I'm projecting into the mic. That might be part of it. Is like I'm yelling a little bit into the mic. Also, maybe I do have a deviated septum. Did you see someone arguing again in the Reddit comments of that article of someone defending the IDF? Oh no, I haven't. All I know is that this is based. Thank you, Jewish Insider, for making Graham Plattner look cool. I'm sorry, chat. 2014, like I'm in. He had bad takes, but his takes have continued to get better. Like, it's okay. I think one of the things that people do, and I understand it, and I'm not going to fight against it. I'm not saying it's bad. I am noticing that there is a cultural movement of like going after actively serving in the military right now for the Iran war. And I'm not fighting against that. I think that that is completely, I'm okay with that. You know, we talk about the Gramscian war of position versus war of maneuver, right? I think having a cultural disapproval of engaging in the like empire is a good idea. I don't think that's a bad idea, right? That being said, it's also compatible left in the sense of it makes our movement less threatening. And, you know, if we have a ton of former veterans joining our movement, that's more threatening to the status quo. And I don't really care that, it, you know, there's some moral gray there. I'll be completely honest with you. Because they're going to kill us. Like, they're going to try to kill us. They're warming themselves up to it. And we need to be prepared for that eventuality. We need to have the skills. I want to show you guys this Clarence Thomas shit because it is fucking insane. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas blasts progressivism as threat to America. I don't think we need Supreme Court. I think everybody knows who Clarence Thomas is. I don't think we need justice either. He doesn't deserve the title justice. What a fucking scumbag, dude. I think what I like about Plattner, he rarely backs down from cry bullying. Yeah, and that includes our own side. Our own side is full of cry bullies. I want people that are not afraid of the cry bullies. I want people that are not going to back down to cry bullying and whining. And I think that his energy is positive in that sense. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas on Wednesday delivered a televised broadside against progressivism, a political philosophy he described as an existential threat to America and the principles that founded it 250 years ago. Now, I tweeted this right before I went live, but Clarence Thomas was born in Georgia. Georgia had an anti-literacy law. What does that mean? What is an anti-literacy law, Mike? It means that if you taught anyone who was black how to read in the state of Georgia, you would be whipped and sent to prison. That is the founding values of Georgia. Okay. I think there were like 7 states that had anti-literacy laws in America. Let me see if we could talk about that. Anti-literacy law of Georgia. Oh, here we go. This, in case you want to know why the South is the way it is. Anti-literacy laws in the United States. Anti-literacy laws in many slave states before and during the American Civil War affected slaves, freedmen, and in some cases, all people of color. Some laws rose from concerns that literate slaves could forge the documents required to escape to a free state. According to William M. Banks, many slaves who learned to write did indeed achieve freedom by this method. They wanted posters for runaways, often mentioned whether the escapee could write. Anti-literacy laws also arose from fears of slave insurrection, particularly around the time of abolitionist Dave Walker's 1829 publication of Appeal to the Colored Citizens of the World, which openly advocated rebellion, and Nat Turner's Rebellion of 1831. The first anti-literacy law was passed by the legislature of the colony of South Carolina in 1740. By the way, this is why the Democratic Party has continually pushed for South Carolina to be the first primary in the country, because South Carolina has been the most conservative state in America for most of its history. When I say conservative, what I really mean is proto-fascistic. Enacted in response to the 1739 Stono Rebellion, it prohibited enslaved people from learning to write and restricted their ability to read or prevent an organized slave rebellion. Southern slave states enacted anti-literacy laws between 1740 and 1834, and the United States is the only country known to have anti-literacy laws. South Carolina Socialists, thank you for the 10 tier 1s. Winter Muffin and Left Wing Nut, you were both gifted subs. Say thank you. Wake up! Say thank you. I want a culture of if you're in the stream and you get gifted a sub, you say fucking thank you. So this is something that most people don't know, but America is the only country in the world that had anti-literacy laws. 1829, prohibited teaching blacks to read, punished by fine and imprisonment. I'm pretty sure there was also whipping. I think there was corporal punishment in that as well. I don't think that's all. I think there was also whipping. So that was the generation, you know, that was our founding principles, right, chat? South Carolina's James H. Hammond, an ardent pro-slavery ideologue, wrote in a letter written in 1845 to British abolitionist Thomas Clarkson, "I can tell you it was abolition agitation. If the slave is not allowed to read his Bible, the sin rests upon the abolitionist, for they stand prepared to furnish him with a key to it, which would make it not a book of hope, love, and peace, but of despair, hatred, and blood, which would convert the reader not into a Christian, but a demon. Allow our slaves to read your writings, stimulating them to cut our throats. Can you believe us to be such unspeakable fools? The problem that humanity has is that those who fight for liberation are not vengeful enough. That is humanity's greatest flaw. We allow evil to continue to fester because we just want to be left in peace.
Welcome back. Here are a couple of other stories.
Let's see if we could get this Clarence Thomas speech. I want to show it to you because, you know, this is something that only I would care about. Like no other streamer would care about. But it's necessary to understand what the right-wing elite are thinking, which is civil war now.
Justice Clarence Thomas, who is speaking at the University of
I don't
Texas.
know if I'm going to give the full fucking hour and a half. Okay, good. We're just going to watch the speech, not the fucking... It's going to be long. I'm sorry, chat, but it's necessary.
Thank you all very much. President Davis, Provost Bowden, Dean Dyer, faculty, students, and honored guests. I thank each of you for being here, and I thank the school and the officials here for the invitation to visit the University of Texas at Austin. My wife, Virginia, and I are pleased to be here to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. If my memory serves me, this is only my second visit to the University of Texas, and this is the first visit at the invitation of the university. But I have hired and worked with a number of outstanding young people associated with this university. My first was now Chief Judge Greg Maggs of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Services, who was a fairly new faculty member at the law school when I became a member of the court. He took a leave of absence to help me as a law clerk during the second half of my first term. My first UT graduate to serve as a law clerk was Greg Coleman 3 decades ago. Greg went on to become the first solicitor of the state of Texas. He was simply outstanding, as was his son Reed, who also was a graduate of the law school here and who was also equally outstanding. Greg's widow and our very dear friend Stephanie is with us today. Stephanie, thank you, and thanks for being such a good friend. And both Greg and his son Reed clerked for my dear friend Judge Edith Jones, also a graduate of UT Law School. I greatly admire Judge Jones. She is one of my heroes, and I admire her as a person.
Platter wants to impeach or remove Thomas and Alito. I think they should be imprisoned. Like, impeach, that's nice. Very moderate. Very moderate. Also, who else is speaking like this who's running for Senate in any state?
If we held Supreme Court justices to the same ethics standards that we hold all other federal judges, there's a compelling case for the impeachment and removal of at least 2. And that would be Thomas and Alito. Their relationships with billionaires, their almost blatant corruption at this point, I think is very worthy of investigation and looking into with the same ethics standards that we hold every other judge to. If we held Supreme Court justices to the same ethics standards,
put them in prison for taking bribes. It's not complicated.
And as a jurist.
Okay, I don't give a fuck.
I am grateful and honored.
I don't give a shit. Okay, here we go.
As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the very values announced in it have fallen out of favor. It is my...
Can I just say thank God? America in 1776 was a slave empire. Women were subjugated. Fuck, if you were Irish, you were a second-class citizen, let alone white. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people were looking down on you for being Irish or German, for fuck's sake. Okay? That's how bigoted it was. We were engaged in active genocide, and we were kidnapping people from the shores of Africa to come work in slave plantations till they died. We banned their languages, their religions. We split up families. We systematically raped women. What the fuck is he talking about? The Declaration of Independence calls one of the reasons why, like one of the most important reasons for the rebellion was that the founding fathers claimed that the British king was inciting domestic servile rebellion. Servile rebellion means slaves were standing up for themselves. One of the reasons we declared independence is because we wanted to keep our slaves in check. We wanted to, the British Empire had a treaties with indigenous tribes where they said they would not venture beyond the Appalachian Mountains. And American settlers wanted to settle west of the Appalachians and attack the Indian tribes, and it was illegal. And the British authorities were holding back illegal settlers. And so American settlers wanted to expand further west and murder and displace the indigenous populations that the British Empire had treaties with. That was one of the reasons we declared independence. Let's look at this honestly. Let's look at it clear-eyed. I'm not asking you to whip yourself for the crimes of men 100 and 250 years ago, but I am asking you to tell the truth about it, because humanity has progressed since then. And that progress has been hard won. And it's good that we look back on those crimes as crimes instead of something to be celebrated. And I have to say, Clarence Thomas, you are the perfect example of everything wrong with the human soul. He is the ultimate, I've got mine, fuck you. He is the ultimate arbitrary, capricious tyrant. What a disgusting individual. What a traitor to American history. Contemptuous. God, what a pathetic fucking loser. Ugh.
Sincere hope that your work to revitalize the teaching and research of Western civilization and the American constitutional tradition.
We need a reconstruction. I'm sorry, chat, but the conservative movement must be crushed in America. It must be viciously ripped out. We need a revolution. We need a social revolution. We need these institutions to be smashed. We need the billionaires to be expropriated. I don't know what else to say. I'll consider my job well done when Clarence Thomas is sitting looking into the corner wearing a dunce cap. What the fuck is going on, man? How could you argue in favor of a country that had anti-literacy laws? I can't understand it. I can't believe it. I mean, the only country in the world where they made teaching knowledge and the Bible a crime. Just disgusting.
Will lead the way in the reform of our nation's colleges and universities. And I hope that your example will help to rejuvenate our fellow citizens' commitment to the principles of the Declaration of Independence. I seem to always enjoy my travels to this amazing state. My wife, Virginia, and I have many wonderful friends and acquaintances here. And it is so special to have our dear friends, Harlan and Kathy Croat, join us today. One of the features of this state that stands out in a way that is the way that Texans talk about it. What comes through is a sustained and sustaining affection that they have for their home state. That reverential feeling for and attachment to Texas is to be respected and admired, and if possible, emulated. This affection is similar to the attachment that I grew to have for my home state of Georgia, and certainly for our country, despite the indelible mark of segregation and its companion evils. I was proud to say that I was American by birth and Georgian by the grace of God.
What a LARP. What a fucking LARP.
It was not uncommon to hear others openly proclaim their allegiance to God and country. At our
What a fucking LARP. Georgia is the home of treasonous rebellion. And to this day, 70% of Georgian whites are openly white supremacists. Like, what are we kidding?
School, St. Benedict's, we started each school day by lining up 2 by 2 and class by class in the schoolyard to watch the raising of our flag and to say the Pledge of Allegiance before silently marching to our respective classrooms. Even as so much of our God-given and constitutional rights were denied us, we still
if they are what? By who? The state of Georgia. What the fuck is he saying?
Faithfully said the Pledge of Allegiance, memorized the preamble to the Constitution, and yearned for the fulfillment of its promised ideals. Sadly, these sentiments are not as widely shared among our fellow citizens today, and they certainly do not seem to have that sustaining strength that they had back then. In fact, all too often, the sentiments tend toward cynicism, rejection, hostility, and animus toward our country and its ideals.
What ideals? The ideals of racial separation and supremacy? What ideals? What are you talking about? Slavery? Indigenous genocide? What are you talking about? What ideals? Anti-literacy? Slave oligopoly? What idea?
With the foregoing in mind, I would like to begin by addressing my first encounter with the principles of the Declaration of Independence. It is perhaps not what you would immediately think. The second paragraph of the Declaration proclaims, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights." Throughout my youth, these truths were articles of faith that were impervious to bigotry and discrimination. The American Heritage Dictionary of English Language defines self-evident as obviously true and requiring no proof, argument, or explanation. Whether they had a divine source or a worldly one, they were never questioned. They were the Holy Grail, the North Star, the rock, immovable and unquestioned. Despite the multiplicity of laws and customs that reeked of bigotry, it was universally believed among those blacks with whom I lived and who had very little or no formal education.
Why not? Why did they have no formal education? Why did they have no formal education?
That in God's eyes and under our Constitution, we were equal.
The Constitution was openly flouted by the treasonous conservative right. What the fuck are you talking about?
This was also the case with my nuns, most of whom were Irish immigrants.
There is a certain type of anti-intellectualism with the conservative intelligentsia, which is truly incredible. I think one of the things that we need to understand is that the way fascists think is so thoroughly solipsistic is the only way to think about it, right? He thinks that because he became a Supreme Court justice, America is just. Why did Clarence Thomas become a Supreme Court justice? Because he was one of the only black conservative judges in the entire federal bench. And they were replacing the first black man on the Supreme Court. Did you guys know that? Thurgood Marshall was the first black man on the Supreme Court, and he was a titan of the left. And so George H.W. Bush was raising a middle finger to the legacy of Thurgood Marshall, and basically so desperately found the only black conservative that they could, who was on the federal. He was a district court judge and not well considered, and they elevated him to the Supreme Court, and he had massive sexual harassment and assault scandals, and Joe Biden helped discredit the law professor who accused him of Anita Hill. Thank you, Joe Biden. And they kept other accusers from testifying. They couldn't stop Anita Hill because she was so prestigious and so respected that her accusation had to have weight within the legal profession. But they kept other women who were less prestigious from being able to state that he had also done it to them. Disgusting rat. Thomas is interesting. I'm aware of the Afro-pessimism affectations of Clarence Thomas, Rosa Lux, but I think it's pseudo-intellectual blathering. He's not an Afro-pessimist. He's a narcissist and a solipsist and a nihilist He's just a disgusting piece of shit. Actually, maybe one of the most disgusting pieces of shit in the entire world.
At home, at school, and at church, we were taught that we are inherently equal, that equality came from God.
Can you explain the second one? Like I'm 5 what? Explain what? A solipsist is just somebody who believes that they're the only thing in the universe. Basically, it's a position of extreme skepticism where you're like, the only thing I can be sure of is my own consciousness. So therefore, I can't really be sure that you're conscious because I don't have access to your subjective experience. So you could be an automaton, or you could be a simulation, or you could be a hologram, and I wouldn't be able to tell. So I'm the only person that I could really be sure exists. So therefore, I should value my subjectivity above all else. That's what solipsism is. It's an extreme form of narcissism. It's philosophical narcissism turned up to 11. Now, the position is not supposed to be one that is genuinely held. It's supposed to be one of it's like a thought experiment, you know, where you proceed only from what you can prove, right? And then you get into this very sticky position of like, well, we have to kind of make inferences and leaps of logic to get past the step, right? But you could also be like, well, since I can't be sure you're real, I can abuse you. Would it be wrong to torture a hologram? Would it be wrong to torture? Is it wrong to torture an NPC in Grand Theft Auto? Is that a crime? And I think most of us would say it's not, right? If I play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and I steal and I pickpocket a groschen from an NPC's wallet, am I committing theft? If you analyze yourself in a similar way, would most people come to realize that they can't be sure of their own singular existence? We're not falling down any philosophic rabbit holes. You guys are not, like, no offense to the chat, but you're not prepared to have these conversations. And it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. I don't want to have to go down. I don't want to do a 101 class right now. I want to talk about Clarence Thomas sucking. Sorry, guys. And it's not because I'm trying to say you're stupid or anything. It's just in order for us to like entertain the ideas, we should at least, you know, we should read them and know what they are before I try to, you know what I mean? That's why when you take like a philosophy class, you have homework.
And that it could not be diminished by man. We were made in the image and likeness of God. That proposition was not debatable and was beyond the power of man to alter. Others with power and animus could treat us as unequal, but they lacked the divine power to make us so. Somehow, without formal education, the older people knew that these God-given or natural rights preceded and transcended governmental power or authority. When you lived in a
So Clarence Thomas's genius idea is the Constitution guarantees our natural rights, even though that the Constitution that guarantees racial equality did not come into effect until 1865, 1866. So when he talks about that, he's literally just making it up, right? He's just making that up. The Constitution, as enacted by the founders, was a slaver's document that guaranteed African slave imports and, even more, fugitive slave apprehensions across the entire country. The idea of bondage of human beings based on their race is an integral part of both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. It is a slaver's constitution. And it wasn't until the radical Republicans and abolitionists of the 1860s fought a bloody civil war and disenfranchised the entire South. This is very important to understand. In order to get the 13th Amendment and 14th Amendment passed, we had to disenfranchise the entire South. I'll say that again. To get the 13th and 14th Amendment passed, we had to disenfranchise the entire South in front of the barrel of a gun. I'm happy to do it again. I got some more amendments I want to pass, and I'd be happy to do it again.
Segregated world with palpable discrimination, and the governments nearest to you enforce laws and customs that...
And by the way, chat, just for the clippers, that was an example of rhetorical exaggeration to expose the fallacy of Clarence Thomas's arguments that the Constitution is a liberatory document. By showing what happened in the past, I draw parallels to the conditions of the present. And I say, in the past, we made progress via extreme measures Therefore, extreme measures are justifiable for the sake of progress. I'm not actively saying I want to put people in front of guns.
Promoted unequal treatment.
I just have to explain this. I have to explain this to very dumb people who are dumb.
It was obvious that your rights or your dignity did not come from those governments, but rather from God.
None of the Declaration of Independence became law of the Constitution. Praising it does not change that history. I mean, if you read the Declaration of Independence, it is a slaver's document. I know there's a lot of propaganda around it for dumb Americans who have never actually read it. But in the Declaration of Independence, it says, he has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. Right? So this is a slavers, settlers clause. One of the reasons we went into, and if you want to know what domestic insurrection, that refers to slave rebellion. Domestic insurrections in the Declaration of Independence, Grievance 27, refers primarily to the fear and reality of enslaved people rebelling against their American masters, encouraged by British offers of freedom. There was Lord Dunmore's 1775 proclamation guaranteeing freedom for slaves who fought against the rebellion. So the Declaration of Independence is literally a slaver's document. Stop buying the bullshit about it being some super liberatory thing. If you were a white man, fine. But for everybody else, it was a declaration of oppression, a declaration of genocide, a declaration of subjugation. They were rebelling against the British Empire, holding them back from killing more indigenous people. That's a literal fact. Here you go. Here's another one. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. This is referring to the fact that settlement beyond the Appalachian Mountains was generally prohibited because of treaties with indigenous tribes. And there was a lot of Americans who were illegally settling, particularly in the Ohio River Valley. And they wanted to endeavor to form new colonies and new states. And they were being prevented by the British authorities. All right, let's go back to Clarence Thomas blathering.
Though not a literate man, my grandfather often spoke of our rights and obligations.
Not a literate man. My grandfather was not a literate man. Why wasn't he literate? Why was your grandfather not literate? Because of the anti-literacy laws that America had. The only country in the world that had anti-literacy laws passed in 1829 in Georgia, prohibited teaching blacks to read. So that's why your grandfather wasn't literate.
Coming from God, not from architects of segregation and discrimination. Men were not angels. They were subject to the constraints of antecedent rights. And we were not subject to those men, even as we were subjected to their whim. We knew that life, liberty, and property were sacrosanct. Those truths were self-evident.
I mean, the only thing I would say to this is that it's perverted. It's perverted. You are worshiping the institution of America that was used to from its founding, denied African people of African descent, black people, equal rights. And the institutions were dedicated in maintaining them in a subject position against the decrees of natural law. That is American history. That is American reality. God, what a disgusting person.
To the adults in our lives, and were taught to us as indelible,
I wish I could speed this
undeniable
up, chat.
truths. Those around us would endure or could endure the insults of segregation with dignity. Because they knew that in God's eyes, they were equal. All too often, there is an unfortunate tendency when discussing the Declaration to make these self-evident truths and first principles of government obscure. Intellectuals want you to believe.
What? I read the fucking thing. It just says, oh, the king is evil because he's making our slaves revolt for freedom. The fuck are you saying?
That our founding principles are matters of esoteric philosophy or sophisticated debate. Even those who support them too often talk about them as if they were academic playthings. They overcomplicate them, take the spirit out of them, and discuss them in a way that puts us to sleep. But the principles of the Declaration of Independence, as I encountered them, are a way of life. They are not an abstract theory that you only learn in college or law school, but the basic premises of our Constitution and government that you can learn from the people all around you. When elected,
I think one of the things about somebody like Clarence Thomas is they are profoundly evil, and anti-intellectualism is a rebellion against human reason. It is a desire to go back into the slime. It is a desire to return to the state of nature, and it's because they don't have the intellectual firepower to hang with modernity, right? Clarence Thomas has made the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence into idols that need to be bowed and propitiated in front of, worshipped, but not understood or processed. Like a medieval peasant barred from understanding and reading the Bible. That's what Clarence Thomas wants Americans to feel towards the Declaration of Independence and our own fucking history. In order to win whatever political squabble or disagreement of the day, he wants to cast us back into ignorance and superstition. This guy's fucking a menace to humanity and maybe one of the most damaging men to ever live. My God, what a disgusting piece of shit.
Justice de Tocqueville visited early America from France. He was struck that there was no country in the civilized world where they were less occupied with philosophy than the United States. But there was likewise no country where the principles of the Declaration were more deeply ingrained or more fiercely defended than those same United States. That is the sense in which I knew the principles of the Declaration in my childhood. That is the only sense in which those principles can sustain our country. And that is the sense in which I will speak to you about those principles today. I believe now, as I did then, that the Declaration of 1776 provides us with the principles to guide us as citizens.
I think one of the things about the conservative canon is they've never read it. This is why I'm not a right-winger, because I've actually read all the things they say. I've read the Declaration of Independence. I've read the Bible. I've read de Tocqueville. So I actually know what is really said, and he's just lying through his fucking teeth. Again, he's turning these things into idols. And de Tocqueville specifically and forthrightly explained in his musings on America about the racial suppression and what he called racial duties of white people, and how it was a complete contradiction that was going to destroy America. Like, I'm sorry, this guy's a fucking liar. He had admiration for elements of America, but he also said slavery was a moral abomination and that Americans are preoccupied with their racial duties of supremacy. He said, I'm looking up a quote right now. He said, "The most dreadful of all evils that threaten the future of the United States arises from the presence of blacks on its soil." Listen to that. Listen to that. That's what he wants you to worship. I'm trying to find what he says. I think there's one quote that he has. I'm trying to find it, chat. American without being democratic. I remember it from reading. I remember reading it, and one of the things about de Tocqueville is you're not supposed to actually read it. It's supposed to just be like, wow, the Europeans worshipped us. I thought we were so cool. Here we go. That's what it's more about. Okay, hold on. Future condition of 3 races in the United States. Okay. The principal task, part of the task which I had imposed upon myself, is not performed. I've shown, as far as I was able, the laws and manners of American democracy. Here I might stop, but the reader would perhaps feel that I had not satisfied his expectations. The absolute supremacy of democracy is not all that we meet within America. The inhabitants of the New World may be considered from more than one point of view. In this course of work, my subject has often led me to speak of the Indians and the Negroes, but I have never been able to stop in order to show what place these 2 races occupy in the midst of the democratic people whom I was engaged in describing. I have mentioned in what spirit and according to what laws the Anglo-American Union was formed, but I could only glance at the dangers which menace that confederation whilst it was equally impossible for me to give a detailed account of its chances of duration independently of its laws and manners. So in other words, he's saying, oh, it's democratic as long as you're not black or indigenous. And that's really dangerous. Among these widely differing families of men, the first which attracts attention, the superior intelligence and power and enjoyment, is the white or European, the man preeminent, and in subordinate grades, the Negro and the Indian. These two unhappy races have nothing in common, neither birth nor features nor language nor habits. Their only resemblance lies in their misfortunes. This is, by the way, de Tocqueville. Have you ever read it before? Both of them occupy an inferior rank in the country they inhabit. Both suffer from tyranny. And if their wrongs are not the same, they originate, at any rate, with the same authors, aka white people. If we reason it from what passes in the world, we should almost say that the European is to the other races of mankind what man is to lower animals. Again, Clarence Thomas, black man, wants you to read this, except he doesn't. He wants you to look at the Tocqueville like a idol, a book you put on a shelf with a dusty cover, uncracked spine. He makes them subservient to his use, and when he cannot subdue, he destroys them. Oppression has, at one stroke, deprived the descendants of the Africans of almost all the privileges of humanity. The Negro of the United States has lost all remembrance of his country. The language which his forefathers spoke is never heard around him. He abjured their religion and forgot their customs when he ceased to belong to Africa, without acquiring any claim to European privileges. But he remains halfway between the two communities, sold by the one, repulsed by the other, finding not a spot in the universe to call by the name of country, except the faint image of a home, which the shelter of his master's roof affords. The Negro has no family. Woman is merely the temporary companion of his pleasures, and his children are upon an equality with himself from the moment of their birth. Am I to call it proof of God's mercy or a visitation of his wrath that man in certain states appears to be insensible to his extreme wretchedness and almost affects with a depraved taste the cause of his misfortunes? The Negro, who is plunged in this abyss of evil, scarcely feels his own calamitous situation. Violence made him a slave, and the habit of servitude gives him the thoughts and desires of a slave. He admires his tyrants more than he hates them, and he finds his joy and his pride in the servile imitation of those who oppress him. His understanding is degraded to the level of his soul. Now, I can say this right now. This is not true of most of black people, but there is one man whom this reminds me of. There is one man that this does remind me of. There is one person that this is ringing true with. The Negro enters upon slavery as soon as he is born. Nay, he may have been purchased in the womb and have begun his slavery before he began his existence. Equally devoid of wants. De Tocqueville is saying that you don't have a soul until you're born. Wee woo, pro-abortion de Tocqueville. Don't read that. Equally devoid of wants and enjoyment and useless to himself, he learns with his first notions of existence that he is the property of another who has an interest in preserving his life, and that the care of it does not devolve upon himself. Even the power of thought appears to him a useless gift of providence, and he quietly enjoys the privileges of his debasement. If he becomes free, independence is often felt by him to be a heavier burden than slavery. For having learned in the course of his life to submit to everything except reason, he is too much unacquainted with her dictates to obey them. 1,000 new desires beset him, and he is destitute of the knowledge and energy necessary to resist them. These are masters which it is necessary to contend with, and he has learnt only to submit and obey. In short, he sinks to such a depth of wretchedness that while servitude brutalizes, liberty destroys him. Oppression has been no less fatal to the Indian than to the Negro race, but its effects are different. Before the arrival of white men in the New World, the inhabitants of North America lived quietly in their woods, enduring the vicissitudes and practicing the virtues and vices common to savage nations. The Europeans, having dispersed the Indian tribes and driven them into the deserts, condemned them to a wandering life full of inexpressible sufferings. Savage nations are only controlled by opinion and by custom. When the North American Indians had lost the sentiment of attachment to their country, when their families were dispersed, their traditions obscured, and the chain of their recollections broken, when all their habits were changed and their wants increased beyond measure, European tyranny rendered them more disorderly and less civilized than they were before. The moral and physical condition of these tribes continually grew worse, and they became more barbarous as they became more wretched. Nevertheless, the Europeans have not been able to metamorphose the character of the Indians. And though they have the power to destroy them, they have never been able to make them submit to the rules of civilized society. So anyway, this is your de Tocqueville reading of the day, where he says basically that that black people are subhuman and Indians are barbarous. This is what Clarence Thomas wants you to read, except he doesn't want you to read.
Of our republic. Even in this time of questioning and criticism of our founding, we should not forget that the Declaration established the principles that produced, despite all of our imperfections, our miscues, and our tragic mistakes. It gave us the freest, wealthiest, and most powerful nation in the history of the world. It provided the moral principle.
America is only the wealthiest nation in the world now because of the progressive movements that saved it. If it hadn't been for the Civil War destroying agricultural slavery, the United States would have been a backwater. If it wasn't for the progressive movement liberating labor, America would have never industrialized. Like, if it wasn't for the New Deal, America would have spiraled into depression and stagnation and oligarchy, as we are now. So everything he's saying is fucking nonsense.
By which Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, and Martin Luther King would criticize the institutions of slavery and segregation. The Declaration, in fact, along with the Gospels, the Declaration is, in fact, along with the Gospel, one of the greatest anti-slavery documents in the history of Western civilization.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It did not establish a form of government. That was the work of the Constitution that followed. But it stated the purpose.
Which was not an anti-slavery document.
Government. The Declaration made it clear, in clear prose, that the purpose of government is to protect our God-given unalienable rights, rights that all individuals equally possess. As Abraham Lincoln declared in 1858, in the midst of his great debates with Stephen Douglas, quote, "Drop every paltry, insignificant thought for any man's success. It is nothing. I am nothing. Judge Douglas is nothing. But do not destroy that immortal emblem of humanity, the Declaration of American Independence." The ideas of the Declaration are so powerful that our nation could not coexist with the contradiction created by the great evil of slavery. Those principles were so powerful that hundreds of thousands of Americans fought and died in the Civil War to make men free. Those ideas have been so powerful that they convinced our nation to finally end segregation. They continue to be so powerful today that they have inspired people throughout the world to throw off the shackles of their own oppressors. And it all began with our founders declaring in 1776 in the Declaration of Independence that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We should also...
For who? For who? Not the slave, not the indigenous, not women, not Catholics, not the Irish, not the German. I mean, we're talking about the founding fathers, right?
Not forget the important sentence that follows, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted. The principle of consent follows from the principle of equality. We, the people, can never legitimately consent to the violation of our God-given equality. However, when I encounter the Declaration of Independence anew today, I am most struck by the final sentence. It can be easy to forget, 250 years later, the courage it took for those 56 men to sign the Declaration. Arguably, those men committed treason against the king, risking death at the hands of an empire far mightier than the newborn United States. They thus concluded with the memorable final sentence, and I quote, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." I will say it again. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Recently, I came across a definition of courage that is attributed to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. In essence, the signers of the Declaration were saying that
I have this sped up and it's still too slow. We're going to 1.5 speed.
they were willing to die for the principles they were asserting, the supreme act of courage. Those principles were more important than their fear. Nothing in the Declaration of Independence, I now realize, matters without that final sentence. Without that sentence, the rest of the Declaration is but mere words on parchment paper. Nice words, but nonetheless, just words.
Nice words. Nice words, guys. It's nice words to say, how dare you make the slaves rebel for their own freedom? Those are nice words. Declaration of Independence, by the way.
What changed the world was not the words, but the commitment and spirit of the people who were willing to labor, sacrifice, and even give their lives, what Lincoln at Gettysburg called the last full measure of devotion for the Declaration's principle. It is that devotion. It is that devotion to which we owe our rich inheritance. It was that devotion that sustained the Founding Fathers and the Continental Army as they fought and won the Revolutionary War, braved the winter at Valley Forge, crossed the Delaware, and defeated an army, many times their number and firepower, to win their freedom. It was that devotion that Nathan Hale expressed when, before being executed by the British, he reportedly said, "I only regret that I have but one life to give for this country." It was that devotion that Patrick Henry invoked when he stood before the Virginia Convention and asked, "Is life so dear or peace so..."
Chat, listen, I'm just going to say this real quick. In any time of anonymous chat, all chatters are assumed to be 35-year-old white men. I know it's unfair. I know it's bullshit. But that's the only way we can keep this chat civil. I cannot be litigating whether each individual chatter is a black person or a woman. So you're not allowed to use terms, racially charged terms, that would be completely acceptable for you to say as a black person, right? Like, no one cares if a black person says the N-word, right? But a white person would get banned for it on Twitch. That's the way it works. That's the way it is. So in the chat, I assume that everybody's a 35-year-old white man because that's the only way I could prevent people from saying shit they shouldn't be saying. There's no way for me to tell the good faith chatters from the shitters. It's just the way it has to go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not fair. I wish it weren't, but that's the rules. So if you don't think a 35-year-old white person should say it, then you shouldn't say it. It's okay. I'll send in proof. No, thank you. I always wondered what it was like to be white. You will never know unless you're white. And let me tell you, there's incredible privilege to being white. Like anytime a white person denies it, I know they're full of shit or they're really stupid. I'm going to have to take y'all word on this. I don't want to even explain it because it almost will feel like it'll make you mad at me because it's unfair. Like, it's actually bullshit. I really don't know how else to explain it. It's because, like, if you have any empathy as a white man, you notice multiple times a day the way the women and people of color around you are mistreated in a way that would make you enraged on a regular basis. You're just like, no one would ever do that to me. And you're just like, what the fuck? If somebody did that to me, I'd be like confronting them with a finger in their chest. It's like crazy. If you're an empathetic white man, if you have any ability to have empathy, you understand how privileged you are and how much benefit of the doubt you get, how much people defer to you, how much people will assume that you're in charge, just all sorts of shit, And it happens constantly. And, at a certain point, it gets exhausting to constantly correct people. So you don't want to be the annoying woke scold, right? But at a certain point, you're just like, God damn, dude. Sometimes you just have to hug your partner and be like, I'm sorry, they were misogynistic. Because what else can you do? A friend of mine would tell me this all the time when the top sub gifter and the top bit donor get the Hype Train conductor badge. Right now, Jab does things with one gifted sub is getting it, and nobody gave bits. Get that badge for cheap. You have 10 seconds. Quickly now. Does he look like a bitch?
150 years since. Think of the frontiersmen who settled the West. Think of the...
Okay, guys, I gotta tell you something, and I don't mean this to be like, I'm watching this because this is the intellectual right wing, and they are fascistic. These are the people that are in power, and they're saying nonsense, and it's embarrassing for any educated person.
Families who built their little towns on the prairies. Think of the women who raised their children to love God and country and sent them off to fight wars. Think of the soldiers on the battlefields of the Civil War who sang, "As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free." Think of the innovators and laborers and engineers who, Tocqueville observed, were so infused with the patriotism that they felt every triumph for their country as a triumph in their personal lives. Think of how the devotion carried us from Independence Hall to Flanders Field and to the beaches of Normandy. Think of the memorable scene in The Band of Brothers when the American soldiers arrived at a concentration camp, saw the suffering, emaciated, desperate prisoners, unlocked the gates, and gave them food and blankets and warm embraces. The soldiers looked around and knew in their hearts that this is why we fight. Think of the passengers of Flight 93 that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on 9/11, or the young men and women whom we send in harm's way, even as we sit here today. Think of my grandparents who heroically, quietly, without fanfare, sat my brother and me down at the kitchen table in August of 1955 and committed the rest of their lives to us so that we could have a chance. They told us, we don't have no education. We don't have no education and no chance, but you boys are going to have a chance. But we're going to devote the rest of our lives to you boys. It was their devotion, their love, their dedication to raising us right that has made the difference. Not the words, though the words expressed as best they could what they intended to do. Their devotion is what mattered. Similarly, it is the devotion expressed in the final sentence of the Declaration, the willingness to do anything for our principles that has throughout American history been most indispensable. It is that devotion that we are missing today and that we must find in our hearts if this nation is to endure. I arrived in Washington, D.C. 47 years ago. It's hard to believe. I arrived as a staffer for Senator Jack Danforth of Missouri in 1979, telling myself that the job on Capitol Hill would be a short stop on my way home to Savannah, Georgia. I then joined the executive branch during the Reagan administration, served in 2 federal agencies for nearly a decade, served as a judge on the Federal Court of Appeals, and have for the past 34 years served on the Supreme Court. Since the day I arrived in Washington, there was never a shortage of people espousing noble purposes, saying all the right things. All around me, there have been people full of promises, claiming a commitment to some righteous cause, to traditional morality, to national defense, to free enterprise, to religious piety, or to the original meaning of the Constitution. These people can be just as high-minded as the men who signed the Declaration. They can mouth the words of the Declaration and parrot its principles. They can write essays and talk at conferences about the Declaration with the best of them. All too often, however, this was but lip service, camouflaged by grand theories in the tall grass of big words and eloquent phrases. What seemed to be lacking, however, was that devotion. People gained positions of.
So he basically wants you to worship the founding documents of slavers as like an idol. That's the thrust of his argument. That if you don't worship the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, like a religious document handed down from God, then that's morally depraved, I guess.
Authority, and you learn who they really are. To paraphrase something I recently read, combat strips us down to our essentials. Once in the spotlight, in that combat, many people fall prey to the lures that are set up to turn them away from the previously untested principle. They become petrified by criticism, so fearful of negative attention that they find ways to avoid doing the right thing. Or they fall prey to the enchanting siren songs of flattery and become so bewitched by praise that they will desperately seek to conform accordingly. They are enticed by access to things that were previously unavailable to them. They get so swept up in the euphoria of acclamation and acceptance that they put aside their convictions. They water down their message, negotiate against themselves, vote against their principles, and hide in the tall grass. They recast themselves as institutionalists, pragmatists, or thoughtful moderates, all as a way of justifying their failures to themselves, their consciences, and their country. It did not take me long in Washington to stop wondering why the Supreme Court took 60 years to overrule Plessy versus Ferguson, the 1896 decision that endorsed government-enforced racial segregation and validated the Jim Crow South
which is that's the South of the founders
grew up in.
This is like, honest to God, the thing about Clarence Thomas that is so funny is he pretends to be speaking to some like unwritten understanding of the slave of what the Declaration of Independence means. And that's why we should worship the Declaration of Independence. But we shouldn't take the meaning that people who wrote it and then enacted institutions to enforce it lived, right? We should imagine some fucking version of the Declaration and Constitution that is different than the actual history that grew out of it. It is pseudo-intellectual blathering.
It could not possibly have taken my court 60 years to know that Plessy was a hideous wrong and that racial discrimination was grossly incompatible with our colorblind Constitution.
But the Constitution is not colorblind. It's not colorblind. It literally said in the document that surfeits were 3/5 of a person. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The Constitution in and of itself, in its document, is a slave constitution. It did not proclaim equality of all men. It did not. It is the Constitution of Plessy.
Justices must have known it all along. The right thing to do, as Justice Harlan spelled out in his lone dissent, was obvious, as it so often is. Perhaps what stood in the way was cowardice. The justices may have been afraid of the societal consequences. They may have been afraid of coming under political fire. They may have been afraid of losing their social standing. They may have been afraid of bad press. They could have been concerned that if they began to enforce a colorblind constitution, they would have to address interracial marriage next. But in any case, for 60 disgraceful years, they made American children like me grow up in a racial caste system because it was easier to do nothing than to do the right thing. When Americans look to Washington...
What is the right thing? What is the right thing? This guy is an absolute pseudo-intellectual. And the reason why I say what is the right thing is because he's saying that the documents are different than what they actually say in their text. He says there's... What's so funny about Clarence Thomas is he claims to be able to access what we would call a penumbra or an emanation or a shadow on the wall of freedom. Don't look at the actual Constitution. Don't actually look at the Declaration of Independence, what they meant and what they say and how they were lived and how they were applied by the people who wrote them. No, imagine some spirit of the Constitution and of the Declaration of Independence that was actually about freedom. Vibe it out. And it just so happened that the vibes are, conservative black men like him should have been free the whole time, right? But everybody else that was oppressed should be oppressed. Queer people, oppress them. Women, oppress them. It's fucking amazing how much of a solipsist. This guy is so fucking intellectually bankrupt that it's embarrassing to even look at this.
And wonder why it so often disappoints. It is not because there are too few people who know what is right. It is not because we lack the intellect or the capacity or the talent. It is instead because there are too few people who are willing to do what it takes to do the right thing, to sacrifice the popularity, flattery, comfort, and security that are the purchase price for principle. It is because too few of us reflect on and reflect the courage and commitment of that final sentence of the Declaration. And so many seem to have forgotten how much others have sacrificed so that this nation could exist and endure. I will state this more poignantly. Do any of us have what it took for our young soldiers to storm Normandy Beach, to fight at Guadalcanal, to later fight at Chosin Reservoir? If we can't say that we have the courage required of these young soldiers in battle to defend our founding principles, then how do we preserve these principles and this republic? Until we have a devotion that matches the courage of those who made this country possible, I seriously doubt any amount of study or development of insights about our Constitution will make much difference. There's a world of difference between what it takes to score academic points and what it takes to protect and defend the Constitution, as we are sworn to do. I have faced this struggle myself. About 43 years ago, in the early spring of 1983, I was the lowest point in my life. I had just buried both of my grandparents, the man and woman who raised me, and the two greatest people that I have ever known. I was broke. I was living in and nearly evicted from a cockroach-infested apartment. I could not pay my credit card bills on time. I would soon sell my car to pay my son's tuition. I was being constantly attacked by the media and Congress because, as chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, I did not bow to the then prevailing orthodoxy on race.
What a fucking disgusting, what a disgusting roach. Oh my God. And he's been taking bribes from conservatives ever since.
At that point, I asked myself a simple question. What are your principles worth to you? My answer then was the same I would give today. They are worth life itself. What are those principles? They are the same principles in the Declaration. They were bequeathed to me by my grandparents and reinforced by my nuns and my faith. In God's eyes, we are equal. We are all equally created in the image and likeness of God. We are all endowed with the natural rights to life, liberty, and happiness. Our rights and our dignity are inherent. They do not come from others, and they do not come from the government. And our government.
What's so ridiculous about this is, imagine that let's just create a scenario that happens all the time. Imagine that you are a child of a heroin and fentanyl addicted prostitute, and you're born into a dumpster. Just think about that for a second. That person is endowed with the same rights as the child of a billionaire. Without government, without assistance of the community, that is a laughable, stupid joke. Rights only exist if they're able to be used by a human being who has access to the support of others, because all of us are born vulnerable and dependent. What a society does to those individuals tells you everything you need to know about what rights they believe truly exist. In Clarence Thomas's America, that child would be left to rot.
Derives its legitimacy and its authority from our consent. We do not derive our rights from our government. The primacy of our rights in relation to our government
blathering
is crucial in reconciling the immortal words of the Declaration with our Constitution and our history. None of our rights come from the government. All of the government's authority comes from our consent. And the structure and limited role of government is to assure that it does not exceed the authority to which we have consented or intrude on our natural rights. The Constitution is the means of government. It is the declaration that announces the ends of government. The Constitution achieves this purpose by protecting our natural rights and our liberties from concentrated power and excessive democracy.
Excessive democracy and concentrated power? Concentrated power would be the oligarchs that are buying you your fucking RV, you disgusting bribe taker. The guy, you remember him. He's got all the Nazi memorabilia.
Our Constitution creates a separation of powers and federalism, truly for the first time in modern history, to prevent the government from becoming so strong that it threatens our natural rights. Federalist number 10 proposed the idea that the great threat to our rights come from the majority faction. Human history teaches us, alas, that numerical majorities frequently seek to control government. And
okay, so how do we get consent of the governed if we're suppressing the majority faction? This is why I wanted you to listen to this.
Use the state to violate rights of the minority. Because man is fallen, and the desire for power was, as James Madison described it, sown in the nature of man, government had to be limited. For as Madison also said, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. But, alas, men are not angels. The slaveholders used the power of government to deny the fundamental rights, natural rights of the slaves.
Hey, Clarence Thomas, have you considered if the majority faction in Georgia had power, there wouldn't be slavery, you dumb fuck?
The segregationists used the state to oppress the freed.
Hey, if the majority faction had power, they would have had segregation.
And women, including my ancestors. As we meet today, it is unclear whether these principles will endure. At the beginning of the 20th century, a new set of first principles of government was introduced into the American mainstream. The proponents of this new set of first principles, most prominent among them, the 28th president of our country, Woodrow Wilson, called it progressivism. Since Wilson's presidency, progressivism has made many inroads into our system of government and our way of life. It has coexisted uneasily with the principles of the Declaration. Because it is opposed to those principles, it is not possible for the two to coexist forever.
So Clarence Thomas' idea is, oh no, the principles of the Constitution are racial equality, even though that's not how they were interpreted at the time of their enactment or by the generations of people that followed. But it's progressivism which delivered racial equality. That's actually the threat to the Constitution. This guy is an incoherent mess.
Progressivism was not native to America. Wilson and the progressives candidly admitted that they took it from Otto von Bismarck's Germany, whose state-centric society they admired. Progressives like Wilson argued that America needed to leave behind the principles of the founding and catch up with the more advanced and sophisticated system of relatively unimpeded state power, nearly perfected. He acknowledged that It was a foreign science, speaking very little of the language of English or American principle, which offers none but what are, to our minds, alien ideas. He thus described America, still stuck with its original system of government, as, quote, slow to see the superiority of the European system. Progressivism was the first mainstream American political movement, with the possible exception of the pro-slavery reactionaries on the eve of the Civil War, to openly oppose the principles of the Declaration. Progressives strove to undo the Declaration's commitment to equality and natural rights, both of which they denied were self-evident. To Wilson, the unalienable rights of the individual were, quote, a lot of nonsense. Wilson redefined liberty not as a natural right.
Let me just say that to put Wilson as the motivating intellectual of progressive thought in 2026, I think most of us would understand that that is a complete ridiculous sleight of hand, right? And it's using what's called the fallacy of equivocation. This is actually a very important point that I need to stop and explain. So basically what the fallacy of equivocation is, you use two words that have the same sound but mean different things. And so you'll say progressivism, the progressivism of the Woodrow Wilson era, the turn of the century progressivism, and you equivocate that with the progressivism of today. And you'll slide between the two senses of the word progressivism. Now, it's a very sneaky trick because the progressivism is, there is some sort of like, maybe there's a genealogical resemblance, right? But the ideas are not in any way the same, right? In fact, they're significantly different. Most progressives today would condemn Wilson as a racial eugenicist, right? Which is closer in ideas to the founders, right? So he's doing this to trick you, basically, which is he'll say things that Wilson said under the banner of progressivism from 1910 or 1920, right? But doesn't represent the 1918. It doesn't represent the progressivism of today. And he's sliding between the two in order to throw shit on the progressivism of today. That is a fallacious, underhanded, and dishonest argument. What a surprise.
Antecedent to the government, but as, quote, the right of those who are governed to adjust government to their own needs and interests. In other words, liberty no longer preceded the government as a gift from God, but was to be enjoyed at the grace of the government. The government, as Wilson reconceived it, would be, quote, beneficent and indispensable. Progressives such as John Dewey attacked the framers for believing that their ideas were immutable truth, good for all times and places, when instead they were, according to him, historically conditioned and relevant only in their own time. Now Dewey and the progressives argued those ideas are to be displaced. Progressivism seeks to replace the basic premises of the...
By the way, chat, women were not able to vote when Wilson was talking. So does Clarence Thomas believe in racial or sexual equality? Because they were not enshrined by the government at that time, right? So the government was not beneficent at that time. So the rights that proceeded from natural law were not being enforced. So Clarence Thomas's account of history makes no sense.
Declaration of Independence, and hence our form of government. It holds that our rights and our dignities come not from God, but from government. It requires...
Our rights and dignities come from the community, come from society, which is inherently socially conditioned, and the government is part of those institutions and conditions. If I have freedom of speech, it's only because it requires both normative acceptance, meaning other people agree with me that freedom of speech should be allowed, and two, social and legal acceptance, right? Because if I claim that I have the right to free speech coming from God, and then I go out into the public square and I say Clarence Thomas should be removed from office and imprisoned for treason, and then I get beaten up, I get shot, I get arrested and imprisoned, and my liberty is taken from me by force, then I don't have freedom of speech. This is a basic idea to understand, right? So the idea of freedom of speech requires social acceptance, it requires institutional acceptance, it requires legal acceptance in order to actually exist in the world rather than floating around in the realm of ideas and bullshit. And observing that is just called being conscious
of the people, a subservience and weakness incompatible with a constitution premised on the transcendent origin of our rights. You will not be surprised to learn that the progressives had a great deal of contempt for us, the American people. Before he entered politics, Wilson would describe the American people as, quote, selfish, ignorant, timid, stubborn, and foolish.
Again, women did not have the right to vote, and there was racial segregation all throughout the country.
Lamented that we do too much by vote and too little by expert rule. He proposed that the people be ruled by administrators.
Wait, you were just saying that we have too much democracy. Now you're saying we need... Now it's... Wait. You were just saying excess democracy, and the majority of faction is bad, and now you're saying expert rule is bad? Bro, just be yapping.
Use them as tools. He once again aspired to be like Germany, where the people, he said admiringly, were docile and acquiescent. The century of progressivism did not go well. The European system that Wilson and the progressives scolded Americans for not adopting, which he called nearly perfect, led to the governments that caused the most awful century that the world has ever seen. Stalin, Hitler.
What? That's not even true. The Bismarckian system is not what led to Hitler. It was the collapse of liberalism. You know, and the Bismarckian system collapsed after losing World War I to America and Wilson and the Western powers. Like, what are we talking about?
Mussolini and Mao all were intertwined with the rise of progressivism, and all were opposed to the natural rights on which our declaration are based. Many progressives expressed admiration for each of them shortly before their governments killed tens of millions of people. It was a terrible mistake to adopt.
The United States has killed more. What do you mean? 60 million people died in the colonial period. Most of it before America technically exists, but without which America could not exist. That's a nice sleight of hand America does, by the way. The 60 million indigenous people that were killed prior to the United States being founded, that's not part of our... Hey, that just gave us all the land we live on. That's not our fault, right? And that's not even including the tens of millions of African slaves that were killed. I mean, comparing America, the colonization and and the, you know, like America has killed more people than Mao, but like by quite a bit.
Progressivism's rejection of the Declaration's vision of universal, unalienable natural rights. Wilson's claim that natural rights must give way to historical progress could justify the greatest mistake in our history. In Plessy versus Ferguson, my court upheld Louisiana's system of racial segregation because, quote, separate but equal, it observed, was reasonable in light of the established usages, customs, and traditions of the people, and with a view to the promotion of their comfort and the preservation of the public peace and good order. It comes as no surprise that I mean,
this guy is just the most incompetent dipshit I've ever seen. He can't even keep an argument straight. This is a Supreme Court justice, by the way. God, he's stupid. God, he's so stupid and contradictory. It's literally fucking stupid. It's like my fanfic of the Constitution tells us more about what the Constitution really means than the people who enacted it and the institutions and systems that they enacted to enforce it. And they acted as if was in concert with the document they wrote for generations. No, it's actually my secret interpretation of the Constitution that we now have anachronistically read backwards in time because of progressive movements. He's so dumb.
Progressives embraced eugenics. Progressives believe that Darwinian...
Again, do you see what I'm saying?
In science, the idea of ever-advancing progress written into biology itself had proven the inherent superiority and inferiority of the races. It was only a small step for Wilson to resegregate the federal workforce. It was only another step for the government to launch sterilization programs on those deemed by the experts of the day to be unfit to reproduce, upheld by my court in Buck v. Bell in an opinion.
Is he even against that? Is he even against mandatory sterilizations? Did he just uphold something like is he even against that?
Written by no less a figure than Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. We can argue over whether you believe in immutable,
I would be surprised.
Natural rights or the Wilsonian idea of ever-progressing history. Indeed, your school of civic leadership was created to host just such argument. But let me ask you to consider the consequences. European thinkers have long criticized America for remaining trapped in a Lockean world with its weak, decentralized government and strong individual rights. They say our 18th century declaration has prevented us from progressing to higher forms of government. But we were fortunate not to trade our Lockean bonds for the supposedly enlightened world of Hegel, Marx, and their followers. Fascism, which after all was National Socialism, triggered wars in Europe and Asia that killed.
He's such a pseudo-intellectual. He's such a pseudo-intellectual fraud, dude, in every way. What an embarrassment.
Killed tens of millions. The socialism of the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China proceeded to kill more tens of millions of their own people. This is what happens when natural rights give way to the higher good of notions of history, progress, or, as Thomas Sowell has written, the visions of the anointed.
90 million people have starved to death in the last 10 years, by the way. Not in socialist countries.
None of this, of course, was an improvement on the principles of the Declaration. Tocqueville's Democracy in America is largely about how America owed its superiority over Europe to its conscious decision to reject central planning and administrative rule, root and branch. Progressivism, in other words, is retrogressive. As Calvin Coolidge said on the 150th anniversary of the Declaration, and I quote, "If all men are created equal, that is final. If they are endowed with inalienable rights, that is final. If governments derive their just powers from the consent of the government, that is final. No advance, no progress can be made beyond."
So according to World Peace Foundation, there's been 2.6 million people starved to death this year so far.
On these propositions, if anyone wishes to deny their truth or their soundness, the only direction in which they can proceed historically is not forward, but backward, toward the time when there was no equality, no rights of the individuals, no rule of the people. When Abraham Lincoln addressed the assembled crowd at Gettysburg, they had gathered to memorialize the past, but Lincoln's address urged them to not do so with complacency. Instead, Lincoln said they should look to the past as inspiration to take them to greater heights in the future. And I quote, "It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we were highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that this government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth." As we are gathered to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration, it may be tempting to do so as if we are passive spectators. It may be tempting to enjoy our tea and crumpets, treat the Declaration like a shiny object or a keepsake, and listen to the sound of our own voices. We could get into debates over whose conception of founding is better, over how we are so much better than our founders were, over what we would do differently. We could be careful to not do anything that exposes us to criticism, costs us friends, or hurts our career prospects. But in my view, we must find in ourselves that same level of courage that the signers of the Declaration had, so that we can do for our future what they did for theirs. Each of you will have opportunities to be courageous every day, whether your calling in life is as a day laborer, a stay-at-home mom, a small business owner, an educator, an office worker, a judge, or some other endeavor. It may mean speaking up in class tomorrow when someone around you expects you to live by lies. It may mean confronting today's fashionable bigotries, such as anti-Semitism. It may mean standing up.
How about anti-Muslim bigotry? What about Islamophobia? Is that bigotry, or is it acceptable?
Your religion when it is mocked and disparaged by a professor. It may mean not budging on your principles when it will entail losing friends or being ostracized. It may mean running for your school board when you see that they're teaching your children to hate your values and our country. It may mean turning down a job offer that requires you to make moral or ethical compromises. One thing I do know to be true. It will mean waking up every day with the resolve to withstand unfair criticism and attacks. These are the choices that will confront you, and you must decide whether to respond with timidity or with courage, as the signers of the Declaration did. It will, of course, not be easy. It never is. But if, like me, you need a greater source of strength than yourselves, you will need to rely on your faith to guide and to sustain you through it all. You will disappoint people you thought were friends and endure personal attacks, as well as attacks on those you care about. But if you stand, you will find that courage, like cowardice, can be habit-forming, and it will become a part of your life and a part of who you are. And I may dare say it is liberating. You will also be a living example for others to emulate. So by all means, celebrate the Declaration of Independence. It is the most important act of American history, the foundation of our Constitution, and as Lincoln said, the sheet anchor of our republic. But I implore you to celebrate it by standing up for it, by defending it, and by recommitting yourselves to living up to its ideals. Channel the courage of the men who faced down a king and signed it, or a president who led the nation in a civil war rather than permit this House to be divided by the great contradiction of slavery. Take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure. And with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, let us mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you, and may God continue to bless our country.
Absolute nonsensical blathering. And the fact that anyone could applaud that is a sign of the true intellectual vacuousness of American legal scholarship. The guy is a lazy and stupid, and it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. And I refuted everything he said, like, as he was saying it, and it wasn't hard. Like, honest to God, what a joke. What a fucking joke. Now let's talk about the values that are happening. Let's talk about the values that are growing.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate, but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system that hurts working New Yorkers. Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy Tax Day, New York.
These kind of taxes on property for the ultra wealthy, it's a tax on unused property. That is economic efficiency. Georgians in. Georgians fucking in.
This great city, unique in its kind, nothing like it in the whole world. And not in the height of its buildings, and not even in its wealth, but in the services to its people.
Start spreading the news.
In making it a city of happy people, and in making it a city of healthy children.
I'm leaving today.
Isn't it great that we're just living in a country where public problems are really the problem of all of the people?
I want to be a part of it.
Here, Fiorella LaGuardia took office with the goal of building a city that could belong to more than just a privileged few.
I work for the New York City Parks and Recreation.
I work for the fire department, and I'm a fireman.
I work for the New York City Department of Transportation.
And I work for Meter Collections.
It could belong to ththose who operate our subways and rake our parks.
For the Office of Technology and Innovation.
As a supply director for the mayor's office.
We build the signs. I work for 301.
Together, we will tell a new story of our city. New York belongs to all who live in it.
And if we succeed here, surely it can be done elsewhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, a new poll has hit. Am I still roboting, by the way? A new poll has hit the timeline. In the Michigan Senate primary, Emerson Abdul El Sayed has surged 8 points into a tied with Mallory McMorrow at 24%. Abdul El Sayed, 24%. This is an 8 percentage point increase from the previous poll. An unbelievable surge. This is the Hassan effect. This is the Mike from PA effect. Also, chat, I want to show you something about Mamdani before we skip off Mamdani. Not sure how I feel about a socialist mayor standing directly outside of a named private citizen's home saying incredibly incendiary class warfare type axioms. What makes it even more disgusting is that Luigi shot the United Healthcare CEO a block away from where Mamdani is standing. What the fuck is A16Z? The fuck is that? The most disgusting. Oh my god. The worst companies in America. And my reply to that is simply, Mamdani is the moderate choice, your last chance. I could tell you, and I mean this, that I am ready for politics to transition beyond AOC, Bernie Sanders, Zohran Mamdani, and Hassan Piker. Like, I'm standing there on the border to something different, and I'm ready for it. Now, the rest of you guys are not quite ready, so I'll wait. And hopefully, it's not necessary. But the politics of a hard left are beginning to take shape. Spontaneous expressions of rebellion are beginning to take place all over the country. Acts of servile insurrection are taking. Oh my God. Assad is being used to campaign ads. And so if you don't like Bernie Sanders or Mamdani, you should elect them because they are your last chance.
And is that New Yorkers ask me less about how I describe my politics and more about whether my politics includes them. And I think what we can see is that
Abdul campaign said that the Hassan collab boosted donations by at 221% and volunteer sign-ups at 29%.
A democratic socialist politics is one that should be judged on its delivery, like any ideology. And what we're showing in this city is we can pursue the big things like universal child care and do the pothole politics at the same time that we're showing, and not just filling in the potholes, changing the catch basins, but also repaving over 1,000 miles of roadway.
But Mr. Mayor, presidential and statewide elections are often decided in battleground regions that do not look like New York City.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Before I was the mayor, I was an assembly member of Astoria in Long Island City. At that time, I was told that you could only be a democratic socialist in Northwest Queens. Then I became the mayor. Now the next question is the state. Then the next question will be the country. I think that this is a politics that can flourish anywhere because, frankly, there is only one majority in this country. That's the working class. And it's time we have a politics that puts them at the heart of what it is that we're pursuing and not as part of the appendix.
I got to tell you, chat, like, these dumb arguments that they make are thought-terminating cliches for boomers. Therefore, television brain-rotted boomers. And the problem that they have is they can't make me only speak for 30 seconds. Now, what makes Zohran Mamdani so effective is he's able to come up with short punches, and he's effective both on the new media and the old. And I was looking for somebody like Zohran. When I talked about, sewer socialism 5 years ago, and people laughed, it's because there wasn't an expression of it that they could actually put their hands on, right? They didn't understand what I was saying. I had a funny name for it. I was repeating the historical name for it, which there's a reason why sewer socialism is a funny name, is because the people who came up with it were insulting it. The socialists who won power in Milwaukee, and they started building sewers so that the working class didn't live in shit anymore. That's one of those things that people don't understand, is that Americans used to die of dysentery. Americans used to die of typhus. Americans used to die of hepatitis until sewer socialists came in and started building fucking public works. And then those practices that socialists enacted in Milwaukee, Wisconsin became standard practice across the country. And there were some anarchists who would insult building sewers and say, oh, you're saying you're doing socialism, but all you're doing is building sewers. All you're doing is building hospitals. All you're doing is building schools. All you're doing is building parks. You haven't destroyed capitalists. You've just improved the material well-being of the working class. That's not good enough for me. You're just nothing but sewer socialists. And a lot of people, millions of people who lived under that and saw their lives transforming to the better, they knowingly said, yeah, you're goddamn right. We are the sewer socialists. We do take care of you. We will show you a better world that isn't ruled by greed and profit above everything else. Unfortunately, America took a red bait because of the geopolitical competition with the Soviet Union. The elites of America, with their stranglehold on the mass media, inculcated a red scare and purged the left from American politics and social movements. And we have been living in the ruins of that decision for decades. New media, social media, has given us an opportunity to transition beyond the politics of control that the Democratic Party centrists and neoliberals have exercised on us for decades. And now we have a new flourishing opportunity to take American politics in a direction that it's rarely trod. That's why Zohran Mamdani is so important. That's why AOC is important. Because we have to demonstrate to people that the left actually can wield power. To you, The left has ethos, has credibility. But our biggest problem is credibility. Our biggest problem is belief. And until we convince people that class-conscious politics is not only possible, but actually desirable, then we will be able to do more and more and more and more and more and more and more. It'll be like a boulder. You know, anarchists demand that you pick up the boulder out of a squat, right? And they laugh at you and they say, oh, there's no motion. There's no motion for the boulder. Why aren't you just bending over and picking it up? Arch your back. And when you say, hey, are you going to help me? They say no. Working with you would be hierarchy. I'm sorry, I believe in a flatter process. And I'm saying that if you want to move the boulder, how about we use gravity? How about we instead of trying to lift it all up all at once, maybe we give it a nice little push and let gravity help it roll down the hill. How long until Fox News start clipping Mike? That would be fucking based. I would love that. That'll backfire horribly for them. So Zohran Mamdani is demonstrating to people the effectiveness of class-conscious politics. He is directly calling out billionaires by name, and he is inculcating a type of attitude and this is why I'm calling for us to enact a Gramscian left. We need to revive the Gramscian left, which is another way of saying we're in a culture war, so let's fight it. But instead of doing it in the terms that the liberals want with liberal identity politics, let's build a culture war in a way that'll actually win. A cross-racial, class-based politics. Deb candidate uses Hassan Piker reading a track commenter telling him to look into the candidate as a promo.
Check out Chuck Park running for Congress in Queens. I know. Everyone always tells me check out Chuck Park. Yes, we will check out Chuck Park eventually. I promise.
Why not this weekend? You can check out Chuck Park for Congress. That's me. At 2 p.m. on Saturday in downtown Flushing. Links in the bio. Hassan, you're invited. And Representative Meng, as always, you're invited too.
Check out Chuck Park running for Congress in
Queens. Honest to God, I believe that, and this is my most wild take, but I believe this take to be true. I feel like everybody in the Fear and podcast could run for Congress and win. Like if we took every member of the Fear and podcast and put them into 5 different districts in LA, they would win. Fuck, I think they could get me across the finish line, but that would be a much harder lift, okay? It would be much harder to get me across the finish line than any of them. But you get my point. Like, I legitimately think that's possible. Now, I don't know if we want Republican Senator Cutie Cinderella, but maybe she could run in Salt Lake City. I'm kidding. Cutie Cinderella should run in Anaheim. Can you imagine Cutie Cinderella representing Disneyland? Do you already talk about how Ro Khanna tried to get Schumer impeached? Oh, I mean, Caroline Kwan doesn't need these people. Caroline would win on her own. Caroline doesn't need these people. Senator of Utah, make Cutie senator from Utah is so true. Utah is doxing all registered voters. Okay, I want to let you guys know something. You're being intimidated by Republicans because you don't understand how voter rolls work. Everybody is if you're registered to vote, you have your name and addresses on the voter rolls. However, it's a felony to look you up on the voter rolls except for political campaigning. So technically people could dox you from that, but they would be committing a felony. Like laws matter. So true. Now you're learning the dirty little secret. One of the things that is really interesting is when you study deviance in sociology or law, people do not follow laws because of what's on the books. They follow laws based on what they vibe the laws to be. And for the most part, laws are enforced by self-regulation. I think it's something like for every 1,000 crimes committed, there's 1 arrest. It's something like that. It's like the odds of being caught and prosecuted and put in jail for committing a crime are very low. Deviance is contextual to the culture. That's exactly the whole point of studying it. Because what is deviant is highly socially conditioned. And there's been all sorts of different types of societies with all sorts of different conceptions about what is and isn't deviant. War powers resolution defeated by 1 vote. There's a reason that Malcolm X said by any means necessary. He did preface it by saying as long as they're legal. The thing about Malcolm X is he was operating in a different type of condition. Any kind of socialist movement needs legal and illegal Marxists, right? So people like myself, I'm trying to remain legal so that I can command the largest possible audience to spread my ideas. So I will never openly advocate for illegal activity because I'll get banned and I'll get silenced, right? So that's not my role. This is very basic praxis. If you read things, you'll understand that there are legal Marxists and illegal Marxists. And that it's very important that those of us on the legal side maintain and take up as much space as we can. It's like the difference between what's her fucking the difference between Luthien and Mon Mothma, right? I'm the Mon Mothma. Not really. I'm not as powerful as her, but you get the point. Listen, we all wish we could be Luthien. Okay? You're as pretty. Oh, thank you. I hear that a lot. Graham Plattner based. All right, chat. Did you guys hear what Robert F. Kennedy said? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I cut off a dead raccoon's penis.
I was driving up maybe, really early, like 7, and that woman in a van in front of me hit a bear and killed it, a young bear. So I pulled over and I picked up the bear and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear, and it was very good condition, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for a roadkill bear. And so then we went hawking, and I had the bear in my car. And then we had a really good day, and we went late. We were catching a lot of game, and the people really loved it, so we stayed late. And instead of going back to my home in Westchester, I had to go right to the city because there was a dinner at Peter Luger's Steakhouse. And at the end of the dinner, it went late, and I realized I couldn't go home. I had to go to the airport. And the bear was in my car, and I didn't want to leave the bear in the car because that would have been bad. So then I thought, at that time, this was the little bit of the redneck in me. There'd been a series of bicycle accidents in New York. They had just put in the bike lanes, and saw a couple of people had gotten killed, and it was every day, and people had gotten badly injured. Every day it was in the press. And so I thought, I wasn't drinking, of course, but people were drinking with me who thought this was a good idea. And I said, I had an old bike in my car that somebody had asked me to get rid of it. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look like he got hit by a bike. It'll be funny for people. So everybody thought that's a great idea. So we went and did that, and we thought it would be amusing for whoever found it or something. The next day, it was like, it was on every television station. It was the front page of every paper, and I turned on the TV, and there was like a mile of yellow tape, and there were 20 cop cars. There were helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do?
Okay, no more looping. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
McDonald's.
Oh, God. Donald Trump getting McDonald's DoorDash to the White House, to the Oval Office. Is this not the perfect example of America in 2026? Oh, she's a Republican shill. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. I think about all the stuff that I read, and then I think about the people that were super intelligent that were around me. I remember I was in law school and I had a circle of friends, and every single one of them was super intelligent. And I think about how that was true of there's so many, once I started realizing there's so many super intelligent people out there. And then I think about who's running our government, and it's Pete Hegseth, and it is Donald Trump, and it is Stephen Miller, and it is, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And I'm thinking about all the scientists and all the people of such high intellect, and they're all being led by that. And it's just like, how is this possible? How the fuck is this possible? MAGA love that video. They don't realize how ridiculous it is to have someone in their senior years working in DoorDash just to pay off medical debts. Honest to God, I don't even know. I'm. Can I just say, chat? I'm the vicious leftist. My empathy is zero for the right. I honestly, if somebody's a right winger, they dehumanized. They're just dehumanized to me. I just don't have any empathy anymore. I don't. This is what separates me from Hassan. Hassan is a very empathetic guy. If somebody's a right winger, they're my enemy. I honestly wish ill on them. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. It's true. It's true. The genocide broke me. Seeing people worshiping a genocide and like cheering for it and then laughing at children being murdered, like if you still support Trump after all this shit, after all the wars, after the genocide, after taking all the bribes, if you still like Trump, like you're evil. You're fucking evil. Just today, I mean, this story made me so disgusted and mad that I didn't even know what to say. I gotta show it to you because it's so fucking evil. It's so fucking evil, I don't even know what to say. Amid quarrel with Pope, Trump strips Miami charity of funding to house migrant children. The Trump administration has abruptly canceled an $11 million contract with Catholic charities to shelter and care for migrant children who enter the U.S. alone. Our track record in serving the vulnerable population of unaccompanied minors has been stripped of funding and will be forced to shut down within 3 months. Under the contract, Catholic Charities operated a full-service child welfare program in Miami-Dade. The program provides foster homes and family reunification and offers supportive services given the trauma that many of these children have endured before arriving in the U.S. I mean, it's fucking disgusting. How much do you need annually? What does that mean? What does that mean? I saw this shit, yes. I mean, it's just like, now listen, I personally believe that we shouldn't be doing it through contracts with independent charities. I think we should have a fully funded national refugee program that is the best in the world, right? But the idea of like, oh yeah, I'm going to like take away money from children to try to punish the Pope is fucking insane. All right, can we look at something positive? I got distracted by Donald Trump again. Oh, somebody said the British Zionists are angry. Okay, what did they say? Netanyahu has lost the conservative voice of British Jewry. Board of Deputies President Phil Rosenberg, to the Israeli government, to the opposition, to civil society, our message is do better. Do a lot better. We cannot defend the indefensible. We will not defend the indefensible. What we have seen in the West Bank and this discriminatory death penalty is unacceptable. We will not defend it. AKA Netanyahu and the Israeli state is so evil that you can't even play the game of defending it anymore. I just had excellent conversations with the highly respected President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel. These two leaders have agreed that in order to achieve peace between their countries, they will formally begin a 10-day ceasefire at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. The two countries meet for the first time in 34 years here in Washington, D.C. with our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. I have directed Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Rubio, together with the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Raisin Kane, to work with Israel and Lebanon to achieve a lasting peace. It has been my honor to solve 9 wars across the world, and this will be my 10th. Let's get it done, President Donald J. Trump. So if you don't know anything about Lebanon, basically the president of Lebanon and the Lebanese government is not, it's a puppet government. It doesn't control the country. It is, it has no legitimacy. And Israel has, ordered, a demand to Lebanon to give up a third of their country. Everything south of the Litani River, including an 8-kilometer strip that'll be completely depopulated. They've destroyed they've destroyed 3 rows of villages. It is a moonscape in southern Lebanon. They've turned southern Lebanon into Gaza, and they forcibly expelled 600,000 Lebanese people, civilians. How are the markets doing today? Because, okay, it looks like oil is up again. Brent's back to almost $100. The markets are pretty much flat, slightly up. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ are at record highs. The Dow Jones is still a couple thousand off of its high. Charles Schwab to launch direct Bitcoin Ether trading to compete with Robinhood. How are interest rates? U.S. Navy blockade of Iran enters 4th day. Here's the latest tanker traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. Just 2 vessels were observed transiting the Strait of Hormuz. So we have absolutely no maritime trade happening in oil. Well, the USS Abraham Lincoln had to take the long way around Africa. As of April 2026, the USS Abraham Lincoln made history with a record-breaking deployment of 295 days.
10-day ceasefire at 5 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday. It has been my honor to solve 9 wars across the world, and this will be my 10th, so let's get it done, end quote.
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking about the George H.W. You're right. Abraham Lincoln Yeah, you're right. It is the H.W. Bush. You're right. Alien, thank you for the correction.
Command, on Tuesday, an Iranian
Mike, oil markets are fine. Unprecedented fire at Australian oil refinery to affect nation's petrol supplies. Uh-oh. That's not good.
Flagged cargo vessel tried to pass the U.S. blockade, transitioning out of the Strait of Hormuz along Iran's coast. The guided missile destroyer USS Spruan successfully intercepted and redirected the ship, now heading back to Iran. So far, U.S. forces have turned around 10 vessels, and 0 ships have broken through since the blockade began on Monday. The war in Iran, along with the ongoing blockade, is having a ripple effect on gas prices here at home. According to AAA, the national average for regular gas is just over $4 a gallon. That's a drop of 6 cents. However, last year, around this time, gas was...
Northern Lion canceled the cruise. You guys are fucking assholes. I'm so mad at you. I'm so mad at you guys. I'm so fucking mad at you guys. Why don't you guys like fun? The fuck did I do? You know who you are. You know who you are. If you were out there being a naysayer, you were criticizing him, if you were clowning on him, you ruined fun. Let the bald Canadian man sail the open ocean. He works hard. In between his month-long vacations from playing pixel art video games, he needs vacations, okay? Can you let the man live? He was on a cruise last week. It's been a whole week. Canadians can't go that long without taking a Floridian cruise. A week? Are you trying to kill him? All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have ourselves proof of the Hassanabi Piker bump. Abdul El Sayed surging to the lead on the backs of Zoomer and millennial support. McMorrow depending upon boomers and Gen X. Elder millennials and young Gen X. Neck and neck. It's a tie. I'm sorry, chat. Gen X sucks. What do you want me to say? And I want you to understand something, chat, that by attacking Hassan, they have accidentally ensured El Sayed will win. And the reason why is El Sayed is a good politician and he has strong support. He's endorsed by Bernie Sanders and a lot of real left-wing people. He's not just some rando guy. He wrote the Medicare for All bill. He is a medical doctor. He has run for statewide office in Michigan before. He has relationships. He is the real fucking deal. He can bench 3 plates. Syed. I can't pronounce words. I am so white. I'm so fucking white. I'm now doubting myself. Syed. That's what I said. Did I say Syed? Oh, God. Such an embarrassment. I can't pronounce names correctly. It is what it is. It's my burden of being a whole language learner. I didn't learn phonics, chat. I learned a way of reading that's different than you learned today because I'm older than you. Don't worry, Denham says it that way too. How does Denham's get it wrong? It's one thing for a white Pennsylvanian to get it wrong, but come on. You're from New York. I'm 44 and learned phonics. Yeah. Lucky for you. He didn't pronounce Zoran's name right. No, I said Mamdani. I said Mamdani before he won. I prayed Zoran. I was taught language for comprehension. I'm very good at comprehending. I have very strong language comprehension, but my pronunciation needs work. It blows. If the Democratic primary election for U.S. Senate were held today, who would you vote for at this time? Haley Stevens, 13.4%. Mallory McMorrow, 23.6%. Abdul El Sayed, 24%. Undecided, 35.8%. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where the attacks are going to backfire because the way for Abdul to win is this group of undecideds. Don't fixate on these other. If somebody likes Haley Stevens or Mallory McMorrow, don't. Those people suck. Okay. Now I'd love for them to change their vote. Right. I will welcome them, but focus on this group. And this is the crosstabs that I want to see. I want to see the crosstabs of people that are undecided and what they think of Bernie Sanders. That's the question. That's the analysis that I have. Oh, fuck. We don't have these. Oh, okay. Full crosstabs. Okay. Good. So what we need is, do they talk about Bernie in this poll? Oh, damn it. Let me look. Oh, damn it. shit, this poll doesn't have the other poll did. Does anybody have the other poll? Did the other poll have crosstabs that I could look in? Because the one that was from the other day, what I want to see is what is the approval of Bernie Sanders at AOC among people that are undecided on the Senate race? That's the insight that I want to see. Because the theory that I have right now is that Abdul has a higher ceiling but a lower floor. And for Abdul to win, he needs to get in front of the people that are not paying attention yet. And he needs to expand the electorate like Zoran did. That's why I think, being associated with Hassan is very important. Centrist fusion dance and coming, unlikely. Unlikely, because if McMorrow, they're not going to get anyone to drop out if they're within striking distance, right? This was the first bad poll that I've seen for Stevens, right? But add the margin of error back in, and it's not. She's still, now this is a bad poll for her, but she still could be within striking distance. Another aircraft carrier experienced a fire. Nimitz class carrier. This is our oldest carrier, by the way, chat. Mike, why hasn't AOC endorsed Abdul yet? I think that AOC likes to wait for near the end of primaries so that her endorsement has the maximum impact in the news cycle. And she also likes to pick and choose people that are more viable. Chat, do you see this? My cat. Gio thinks that Styx might be an Oriental cat because he's got a really long, thin tail. I'm sorry for the name Oriental. It's just the name of the breed of cat, or at least mix. AOC waits until the outcome is clear. Incorrect. She wants someone to be viable before she throws her weight behind them, which I think is wrong. I think the problem that we have is that people like Hassan and AOC underestimate their ability to move the numbers, and they don't want to look bad. So they don't want to be involved in too many races and take too many L's. But the main problem that the left has is twofold. One is what I talk about all the time, which is ethos, which is credibility, right? If I were to run for office, how well I would do would depend upon how many endorsements I got early. Do enough people think that my race would be viable? And I will be completely honest with you, Chad. If I were to run for office, I would donate at least, I donate a significant amount out of my own pocket. I wouldn't try to raise purely off other people. I would be donating a large amount of my own pocket because I would feel bad asking anybody else for money without putting as much as I could afford into my own race. Part of why I want Hassan to run, he could drop $500,000 on his own race and it would be a shoulder shrug. You know what I mean? Someone should yell at AOC, do not wait until the iron is hot to strike, but make it hot by striking. Who said that? Sounds like a Napoleon quote. Do not wait until the iron is hot. William Butler Yeats. Okay. I was like, that's, what is that? Why would Hassan ever run for office, especially a House seat which has very limited power? Why not? First of all, no, it doesn't. Second of all, why the fuck not? He's a streamer. It's not like he has a real job. Just stream more. You know what I mean? Who gives a fuck? It's pronounced Yates. Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. LA County costs $15 million for a campaign minimum. You do not have to spend $15 million on a congressional race. I said this to him and he had a meltdown on me, man. I mean, I know. Listen, he's young. He's young. Once the big 4-0 hits, Mike, will you accept Caleb Hammer's offer? Absolutely not. That guy is a fucking loser incel who has no value whatsoever. Let him fucking fall off. He's a dipshit. The guy has absolute going, oh my God, I can't believe you spent money on Starbucks to somebody with blue hair as a career is fucking pathetic. When am I going to give running for office another shot? I don't know that that's the place for me. I see myself more as a power behind the throne. I don't think you've been given enough credit for how much your stream background has improved. It'll keep getting better. It's still VO did a great job, but look at him. Isn't he cute? He's a he's like the most dog-like cat. He's very cool. He's very chill. The House just failed to pass a resolution to end Trump's war with Iran by one vote. The count was 2013 to 2014. Just one Democrat, Jared Golden, voted to let Trump keep waging the war. Rotatingvillains.org. Oh, this is based. What? I love this. Call them out. Oh, this is good. The fuck? Deciding votes. 141 yes votes on bills Dems could have blocked. Voted against Dem bills 125 times. Supervillain. Jared Golden. Get him out. Isn't he done? Isn't he not running again? Did you see Lebanon and Israel got a ceasefire? Hamas is the one fighting Israel, so unless Hamas agrees to it, it doesn't matter. The government of Lebanon is a failed state, and it doesn't represent the Lebanese people. So Hezbollah. Did I say Hamas? Sorry, Hezbollah. Hezbollah. Unless Hezbollah agrees, the brain rot is happening, chat. I need a video. I need to drink some water. The hydration is down. Here you go, guys. This is an important thing. Hassan admits Mike is right. All right, let's... I was sent this clip.
Or Michael from Taiwan bring up AOC. A lot of people go, fuck her. She's like Rokon, sometimes afraid to be at the front of the line because she doesn't want to get fucking yelled at. And because of her responsiveness to these groups, right? She oftentimes is not putting herself out there as a leader. Okay. It's unfortunate. You have to be clear, you have to be convincing, and you have to be bold, and you have to be brave. But that is precisely the reason why.
I think the problem with AOC is she was the tip of the spear. She was really the first member of the squad, and therefore she got smashed on the head by literally everyone in all directions. And I can say it as somebody who has been a prominent left winger for a long time. Nothing bothers you more than getting stabbed in the back by your own side. Like I could fight with Asmongold and Destiny and Ethan Klein, and I am a happy fucking warrior. It's fucking hilarious. I love it. It's, you know, it's a ton of fun to mix it up with the scumbags and call them pieces of shit and destroy Tectone's life and everything like that. That's fun as fuck. Okay, that never bothers me. All the chuds in the world can call me any type of name. It never bothers me. What really hurts your feelings, what really fucks you up mentally, is when you get stabbed in the back by your own side. You know, that's what makes you lose confidence. That's what drags down your mental. That's what takes down your morale, at least for me, right? When people were trying to get me banned and calling me an anti-Semite from a year-old clip that they kept hidden in secret so I wouldn't have the VOD anymore, so they could strip it of context to get me called an anti-Semite in the middle of the ADL's attacks on Hassan and Rogan and, you know, all that shit, and they tried to call me racist for repeating a joke I heard from who said it? Who was the idiot who said the joke? Stavros. Repeating a Stavros joke, they tried to call me racist, and then they tried to get me banned for a year-old clip that they kept secret, and they used it to distract from the Lolo Overruled, where he was a sex predator. Because Lolo Overruled was a sex predator, and he slinked off the internet instantly when he got caught. And they redirected that energy onto me to try to get me fucking banned permanently, and worked with Destiny and Asmongold to do it. That hurt me more than a million Nazis threatening to kill me and my family. So I understand what it's like to get stabbed in the back by your own side. And it's not something that you can really reckon with because you don't understand it. But then you realize that there are a lot of people out there who put on a front of caring about this shit, but they're not about the cause. They're about advancing their own brand, right? They're about advancing their own wallet, and they don't give a shit who they have to step on. For them, if Hassan and I got banned for being anti-Semitic, their stream would go from 150 concurrent viewers to 600 concurrent viewers. To them, that's worth it, right? So, you know, that's why, you know, AOC is not integrated with the left-wing online space. Because how does she separate comrades from opportunistic frauds, self-serving pricks? How many of them are there? Dave Rubin. Look at TYT. Look at Jake Euchre and Anna Kasparian. Look at Jimmy Dore. Look at Brianna Joy Gray. Look at all the opportunistic scumbags that are willing to stab you in the back over one disagreement, tactical or policy, and declare you a sellout, and declare you persona non grata, and declare you the next Nancy Pelosi or the next John Fetterman because they disagree with your decision on one point. And their disagreement is not a democratic disagreement. It's not a disagreement that comes from a labor union. It's not a disagreement that comes from a socialist organization. It's their subjective opinion. How could the left survive? Like, you know, it is what it is, right? It is disgusting. It's horrible. And so I totally understand why AOC has shrunk away from the online left. I mean, Chapo Trap House has Editor Mentum on to glaze fucking Gretchen Whitmer and JB Pritzker, Zionists, while he stabs 8 daggers at AOC's back because she's cringe. 5 years ago, she wore a cringy dress or whatever the fuck the argument is. And it's like, bro, look in a fucking mirror. You're not cool. Like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? And a lot of people are hurt by Bernie Sanders' failure. And it fucks people up, you know? A lot of people put money and time and care and passion into Bernie Sanders' campaigns, and he didn't win. And I know what that feels to try and fail, especially when you've seen how the world has gone since that failure, the path that we did not take. Can you imagine the path of a Green New Deal? There would be no homeless on our streets. Our air would be cleaner. We would have high-speed rail crisscrossing the country. We would have brand new public transit in every major city. We'd have new social and public housing being built all around you. Your rent would be lower. Your air would be cleaner. Your life would be better. We'd have 1.7 trillion of student debt gone. All student debt gone. Think about how much better your life would have been had we been able to prevail. Okay, but when you're going to be running for the fucking president of the United States, at some point you got to suck it up and deal with it. Oh, absolutely 100% believe. I agree with you 100%. Do you see me crying and you see me broken and not streaming because people betrayed me? People betrayed me all the fucking time. Who gives a shit? I expect people to be pieces of shit. Okay, like if it happens, you are swapped out. You are out and you're gone and you're out. You know, it is what it is. Any movement that is, you know, contending for real shit is going to have Judases. If you can't handle having Judases, then you're not going to succeed. That has to be part of your movement. Needs to be robustness in the face of devastating failure and betrayal. It's going to happen. Welcome to politics. But at the end of the day, we also need to be disciplined ourselves, right? AOC needs to toughen up. AOC needs to put on her boots and get out there. See that Ro Khanna has managed to do it, and he's handling himself. She needs to be able to go out there and handle herself. And by the way, it'll be good practice. The more you're out there, the more you're in pressure, the more calm you'll be under pressure. You need to get out there. You need to demonstrate. You need to practice. There's no doubt about it, okay? That being said, our movement can't just be full of grifter dipshits who know fucking nothing and have no discernment. And this is what Hassan is talking about.
Why the polls reflect her losing to someone as bad as JD Vance currently. Now, that might change.
That's just because she doesn't have name recognition, man. Like, all the Democrats are losing to JD Vance because of lack of name recognition. That's really all it is. It's not that big a deal. You know, it's really not that big a deal. You have a lot of undecideds. That, you know, the poll that showed her losing had like 50% undecided. Like, that's not valid, okay? She's going to, you know, it's silly. And the thing about polling is something that has to be consumed intelligently, which means you need to have narratives and understanding in order to interpret the information that you have. And there's certain things like name recognition. It takes a while for people to be known. It's difficult and expensive to become known.
That might change. That will change if she chooses to seize the opportunity, if she leans into that lane.
I agree with Hassan.
But even in this community, there's a reason why anytime we bring up AOC, and this is something that Michael from Taiwan has to deal with as well. Whenever people like myself or Michael from Taiwan bring up AOC, a lot of people go, fuck her, she's AOCIA, she's so bad on this issue and stuff. And then the alternatives that a lot of people present as like being much better on these issues is Ro Khanna. And I like Ro Khanna, right? I like Ro Khanna a lot. Ro Khanna has been infinitely more responsive than the overwhelming majority of congresspersons, okay? Ro Khanna rides for me, I ride for Ro Khanna. Except when you look at the actual votes, like Ro Khanna has a much longer track record of defending Israel than AOC in his votes. And even as recently as like, you know, a couple months ago, AOC's never voted to fund weapons to Israel, right? But you wouldn't know that because Ro Khanna is a lot more bold and a lot more aggressive openly with the way that he communicates. He's responsive. He goes out there. He goes on shows. He appears. He's constantly in the media. He's had very high profile legislative victories. One of the most consequential being the Epstein file reveal. That was huge. Okay. Going out and linking up with Thomas Massie and demanding and then successfully pressuring Trump to vote instead of vetoing this popular legislation that everyone wanted, which led to people losing their fucking jobs like Pam Bondi, that's huge for Ro Khanna. He deserves the praise. He deserves the praise for that. Right now, in AOC's shoes, like I can't, I can't read her mind, right? But in her shoes, I would be out and about, movement building, putting myself out there as a leader, okay? Doing, the Ro Khanna method, being on as many shows as possible, being approachable, being endlessly transparent, okay? And getting after it, while also simultaneously propping up a lot of candidates that will back her in the long run,
I think AOC just needs to have a phalanx of people that are winning on the bold positions we want, right? If Oliver Larkin wins, if Claire wins, if other socialist candidates win, it's going to create a phalanx around her that is going to help protect her and show, especially if they win in swing districts, right? If Abdul wins, if Graham Plattner wins, she's going to feel more and more freedom in motion to be the bold leader that we need her to be. If all those people fucking lose, well, then she's going to feel like there isn't enough electoral juice and she's going to be more defensive, which is bad. Now, I want her to be blazing the trail. And I feel like the sense of her hanging back hurts her. But if you actually look where she really stands on the issues, she's already way better than almost everybody else running.
Whether it be Plattner, whether it be Abdullah Syed,
there it is.
Whether it be all of the left flank candidates that Bernie is propping up as well, sometimes even going against her party, her own party that has actually fucked her over and over again. I mean, the oversight committee battle was a clear-cut indication that leaning into the party and behaving as a loyal soldier of the party is not going to give you the benefits that you deserve, right? It's not happening. So she could even sometimes prop up. She voted for defensive weapons, though. No, she didn't. And there's a lot of misinformation around this. I've covered it so many times. Please go back and watch one of my videos. All right. AOC, whether she likes it or not, is a movement leader. She's been positioned as a movement leader, regardless of whether she's comfortable and confident in that position. Okay. But here's the thing. I think AOC should be even pushing, even going against the grain and doing something unthinkable in the Democratic Party, and even pushing for people who are primarying incumbents. Okay. She could be doing that. Like Nida Alam was a great example. If she just said, fuck it, fuck the process, I'm throwing a dagger at the heart of this party that has fucked me over, and propped up Nida Alam, she would have won, right? She would have destroyed Valerie Fouchi, the 80-year-old incumbent. And that would have given her unlimited prestige and unlimited credibility. However, it would have made her life a lot harder internally within the ranks of the Democratic Party. Everyone would have the knives out for her. They would fucking actively try to destroy her. But that's a battle that we have to fight. And that's a battle we will win, because AOC is unbelievably high profile. Every word that she releases immediately hits the news cycle like a fucking atom bomb, right? And the reality of the matter is, regardless of which direction she heads in, whether it be to unseat Chuck Schumer, which is an easy lock for her if she wants to do that, or whether if she wants to run for president,
Zoran should run for, I know people are mad at me, like, Mike, he'll only have been mayor for 3 years. Who gives a fuck? If he accomplishes all his goals, get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Take the Senate seat. Pass the torch on to a new, exciting, up-and-coming person in the city of New York. Why the fuck does he have to stay in one small city? If he accomplishes his goals, buses fast and free childcare, freezing the rent, and he puts in a whole bunch of processes and programs to help build housing, why sit there in one fucking city when he can help lead the entire country by being a senator? And crushing Chuck Schumer would be fucking amazing. And AOC would have him in the Senate? Can you imagine AOC as president with Zoran in the Senate? That'd be fucking crushing it. The centrists would be getting fucking bullied. It's very foolish to just be like, well, Mike, he should stay. I'm sorry. I'm a political mind. I don't buy into the idea that we should like hold ourselves back because of some commitment to what? Nothing? He's not doing that by the time the Senate race comes around. We'll see. I guess we'll see.
People are going to come after her. The party is going to come after her. They will never reward you for your loyalty.
The Queen, Amy Goodman, will be on Hassan's stream later. Is he in New York right now, or is he back in LA? Must be New York, because I thought Amy was in New York. Okay, I'm actually mad right now. Taking Summer Lee, fine. But Amy, now he's gone too far. Now he's gone too far. I fucking had it! Also, Zoran running for Senate and promoting a successor help builds a bigger pool of talented candidates to run for office in the future. That's exactly my point. It's like, who else could take on Chuck Schumer and win? And I don't think going, well, Zoran should stay in mayor, and so AOC does it, is the best way to maximize power in this unique moment. We have a moment where centrist Democrats are discredited. We have a moment where the left has exciting young candidates. We should be reaching for the most power we can get. We should be over pursuing power. We shouldn't be waiting and hope and expecting things to just continue to trend in our direction. That's not how it works.
As long as you are seen as a spoiler, right? That's it. As long as you're seen as a left flank candidate, you will be considered a disruptor. You will be attacked. And she knows that already, right? She knows that. So
AOC just raised more money than the Speaker of the House. I don't think people understand what this means. Like, the fact is, like, I read this and like, I think some of you understand it. But the fact that not all of you are losing your fucking minds over this is baffling to me. It's so baffling to me. I don't know how else to explain it. Mike Johnson controls an entire branch of the federal government, and he gets less money than AOC, who's not even in leadership of the Democrat. Do you understand that? Do you get that? He's third in line to the fucking presidency, or second in line. She's raising more money than the leaders of both parties. Do you not understand that? 114,000 individual donors. What the fuck? 114,000 different people took out their wallets and gave money to AOC. What the fuck? Do you understand that? That's incomprehensible.
Wondering why, when we looked at that poll, like why she was at 33% against Vance and losing to JD Vance, that's the reason. Okay.
Has shocked you most or surprised you most about the Epstein saga?
The blatant gaslighting. I think they're either blackmailed. I think they're even blackmailed.
First of all, you can't blackmail Donald Trump. He has no shame. The man's in the Epstein files. What would you blackmail him with?
When we talk about stuff that's happening in the world and then you get called anti-Semitic, I have a problem with that, because basically you're calling out the truth. The truth now is anti-Semitic.
Buster, why can't you be careful then in your language? What, are you doing it for clicks?
I'm not saying that my reaction is
wrong. Oh, this is just the Tucker stuff? Okay.
This owns on Tucker Carlson.
Because they've said some horrific things over the years.
So what?
I mean, why don't you like Ben Shapiro?
I mean, Piers Morgan has said the horrible things over the years.
He's not said anything close to what Tucker Carlson has said about Muslims, about Arabs, about immigrants.
And why can't we be strategic and use their platforms?
You can.
Yeah, but like
some people do.
You don't like that. You don't like.
No, it's not that I don't like it. It's that my worry is that.
All right, Chad, and that's where we are. Let me just say that, like, in general, I am more of a pugilistic attitude. I am a confrontational political attitude. That's what I think we need more of in politics today, is more confrontations with the right, more exposure of the cleavages between the left and the right, less baby talk, less like kumbaya bullshit, more like, hey, I'm pissed off and we need to like fix our problems. And so I'm just not interested in making baby talk with any right winger. More cleavage exposure. Exactly. Do you not think the governor of New York or mayor of New York City has more power than a senator? How do I put this? In America today, left-wing policy has been preempted at the state and federal level. If you wanted to do left-wing policy as a governor or as a mayor, you are pretty much prevented from doing it because of the laws that states and the federal government have created that prevent you from spending money in left-wing ways. So the only way for us to, ironically, if you want local change, we need federal power. Also, whatever's being talked about federally is we are now in an era of international politics. Socialism is happening because humanity is internationalizing. We are all starting to share the same, we're all having so much intercourse with each other that it is creating politics that are no longer bound by national bigotries, right? We're having so much contact with each other's ideas and cultures that we're no longer like, we don't have siloed types of politics, right? And so the more power that you can get, and at the highest level you can get, the more relevant it is going to be in everyday life. So Zoran as senator is writing policy for the world. Zoran as mayor of New York City is trying to work around policies that are imposed upon him from the federal and state level. Do you see what I mean? Like, look what's happening for Zoran right now in New York City. He's saying we need to tax the rich so that he could do what? Balance the budget and enact the programs he wants. But he's relying on Kathy Hochul passing laws at the state level in order to possibly enable him to do shit. So he is sitting there stuck at the limits of his own power. But if he's the senator, he's writing policy that would apply to every city. So if he wants to do social housing for America, he could write a policy that every state and every city would have to implement. That's why I want somebody like Zoran at the highest level we can get him. He is the political equivalent of middle management. Exactly. Like the mayor of New York, that is a prestigious title, and it's powerful and important. There's no doubt about it. But it fundamentally is constrained by preemptions, as what is the idea. So in law, we have a concept known as conflict of laws, right? What do you do when two sovereigns have conflicting instructions, right? Well, in our system, the federal government, the higher forms of law prevail. So if I have an ordinance that says Austin construction workers deserve to have a 10-minute water break for every 2 hours in the sun, right? And I am the mayor of Austin, Texas, and I have a majority on the city council, and I pass an ordinance that says construction workers in the summer sun get a 10-minute water break for every 2 hours in the sun, right? Well, you know what happens? The far-right Republican state government says water breaks are banned. So what happens to the construction worker? Construction worker does not get a water break because the state law prevails. Now, you can listen to that and go, Mike, that's a ridiculous exaggeration. Everybody would expect you to be able to have water breaks in the Austin, Texas sun. That's nuts. That would cause people to die and have heat stroke, which causes massive irretractable brain damage. There's no way that would happen. As Texas swelters, local rules requiring water breaks for construction workers will be soon nullified. And this is the problem, right? Because if you are Zoran Mamdani and you're running on a sewer socialist platform and then you try to implement it and then it gets overturned, you look like your politics are pie in the sky. It discredits us. It discredits us that we can't even pass water breaks, right? It makes us look like losers that we get overturned. It lowers people's belief. Are you going to volunteer for a campaign and everything they do gets nullified instantly by the higher levels of government? Or are you going to be like, that's a waste of my time? Why even bother? Governor Greg Abbott approved a law this week that will eliminate city and county ordinances like Austin and Dallas's mandated water breaks. In a week when parts of the state are getting triple-digit temperatures and weather officials urge Texans to stay cool and hydrated, Governor Greg Abbott gave final approval to a law that will eliminate local rules mandating water breaks for construction workers. Supporters of the law said it would eliminate a patchwork of local ordinances across the state that bog down businesses. The law's scope is broad, but ordinances that establish minimum breaks in the workplace are one of explicit targets. The law will nullify ordinances enacted by Austin in 2010 and Dallas in 2015 that established 10-minute water breaks every 4 hours so that construction workers can drink water and protect themselves from the sun. It also prevents other cities from passing such rules in the future. San Antonio had been considering a similar ordinance. Texas is the state where the most workers die from high temperatures. Government data shows 42 workers died in Texas between 2011 and 2021 from environmental heat exposure. Workers' unions exclaim this data doesn't fully reflect the magnitude of the problem because heat-related deaths are often recorded under a different primary cause of injury. Construction is a deadly industry. Whatever the minimum protection is, it can save a life. We are talking about a human right, said Ana Gonzalez, Deputy Director of Policy and Politics at the Texas AFL-CIO. We will see more deaths, especially in Texas's high temperatures. And so this is the reality of why I say Zoran needs to take power. AOC needs to run for president, because I understand how our legal system works. And I understand the operation of preemption and conflict of laws. And so if we don't seize as much power as we can at the highest levels we can, then our political work will be nullified. And do you think that's going to make people want to spend more time and more money doing work? Are you going to volunteer for a campaign if you know that nothing you pass will stay in law? Did somebody say I misused the word intercourse? I was talking about these definitions: exchange of thoughts or feelings and connections or dealings between persons and groups. I wasn't referring to the physical sexual contact individuals that involves the genitalia of at least one person. I was using these meanings. Okay, thank you. Oh, Theo has given me another breakfast burrito. Ooh. We got ramekins. Thank you, Vio. Anyway, that's why I say Zoran should run for Senate. Is everybody on board now? Or governor, I guess. But I'd rather him run for Senate. Because I think he's such a good politician, we should want him at the national level. Like, that's my personal opinion. And senators are in office for 6 years, which means they can spend more time helping other people as opposed to, like, focusing on their own re-election. I know. The Northern Lion Super Cruise was canceled because of woke. I know. Which brings us to our next video. Why woke
Both
is bad.
Sorts of billionaires, liberals and right-wing billionaires.
I'm kidding. We're not going to watch this one right now. By the way, I am a fan of Catherine though. Hutch is such a dumb fuck. If I were committing a genocide, I would probably at least kill people faster than the birth rate in that region. He thinks that projections that were made years before the war on Gaza, the genocide of Gaza, are like accurate reflections of the current population of Gaza. He's so stupid, it's unbelievable. Like, that's part of the problem with like talking about politics in general, is a lot of people are really dumb and can be easily tricked. And that is a major problem for us on the left, is that a lot of people are illiterate. That's why every socialist movement, the first thing they do is teach people how to read. So I fully agree. However, isn't it a bad look for someone to jump to a higher position of office because it looks opportunistic? I don't give a shit. If it I don't let myself care about shit like that. Every time you are allowing considerations of face to guide your actions, you're gonna fuck up. You're gonna fuck up when you're like, oh, I don't know, it'll make me look too ambitious, or oh, I don't want to look weak. Stop with that. Do what you know is right. Do what you know is necessary. Stop doing that kind of shit. You're just holding yourself back. There's no perfect time where you look completely clean. It's politics. Politics is war by other means. I need you to understand that. Would you go, it would make us look bad for our army to encircle the enemy while they're weak. We should wait for them to be strong so we can have an honorable combat. No, you fucking attack. Oh, we shouldn't do an ambush. That's not fair. They didn't have a chance to prepare. And a lot of them are not even going to see it coming. Or do you shoot them in the back from a concealed position? If anything, Zoran should be looking for successors so his projects last. No, I'm not saying do evil shit for evil ends, but there's nothing evil about running for Senate while you were a successful mayor. You know what I mean? Like what are we doing here? Oh shucks, I guess I have to wait another decade because I wouldn't want to look like I'm ambitious. Like, what are we saying? Would Hutch deny the Holocaust because the Jewish population has since recovered? Honest to God, he doesn't seem to have the mental fortitude to come up with any kind of practice like that. All right, chat, I just realized something.
New York City Mayor.
All right, Zohran Mamdani was on CBS Mornings, so let's check it out.
Zohran Mamdani capped off one of the most impressive rises in modern political history when he was sworn into office in January. The Democratic Socialist became the first Asian American and the first Muslim mayor of New York City. Mamdani is also the city's youngest mayor in more than a century. So how's the mayor doing in his first 100 days? We're going to ask him. But first, we asked New Yorkers for a letter grade. Here's what some of them said.
B+, A. I think a C+.
An A. I feel like he's doing an amazing job.
You know, I guess it would be like an A-, B+, A-.
Give him an A. He hasn't done anything too bad yet, and he hasn't done anything too good yet. So I think a C is perfect for him.
A+.
Mayor Mamdani got a sense of humor, it seems, joins us now. You haven't done
F's, bro. I mean, he's done a lot of good things.
Anything too bad yet? You haven't done anything too good yet, so we'll give you a grade. How do you think you're doing in your first 100 days?
You know, I'll always leave it to New Yorkers to give me the grade, but I will say that I'm proud of what the team has accomplished over the 100 days. I mean, we saw $1.2 billion secured in a partnership with Governor Hochul to deliver universal child care in our city. We held bad landlords accountable for $32 million, fixed 6,070 apartments. We filled 102,000 potholes, and we did all of this while also returning $9.3 million back to workers and small businesses that have been ripped off by mega corporations.
Yeah, that's all the good stuff, Mayor, but people will talk about the promises that you made during your campaign. 3 of your signature issues: universal free child care, freezing city rents, making city buses free. Promises haven't been materialized yet because the rent isn't frozen, the buses aren't free, no universal child care. And so New Yorkers are saying, you know, it's been 100 days. Why haven't you done it? What do you say to that? Well, because your campaign promises were big for a lot of people.
As they should be, because New Yorkers are facing a big crisis of affordability. So I'll go through one by one. We said that we would deliver universal child care. On day 8, we announced that agreement with Governor Hochul. For the first time in New York City now, we are delivering universal child care for 2-year-olds. 2,000 this year, 12,000 next year, every single 2-year-old by the end of year 4. We said we believe that the rent should be frozen for New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing. There are 6 vacancies on the board that determines that. We filled those vacancies. They're going to make their decision. They're an independent board. They'll make that decision this summer. And then we said that we would speed up the slowest buses in America and make them free as well. And we're proud to say that we're already speeding up buses for more than 1 million New Yorkers, putting 6 minutes back in their pockets, which, as you know, in New York City, time is money. And we're working with Albany to make them free. And so what I would say when we look at these 3 main campaign promises is we're seeing the kind of progress we were told was impossible, and we're doing all of it while also accomplishing the same thing that we said we would do before even affordability, which is public safety. And that is a key part of our agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I want to widen the lens a bit. After your campaign win, there were a lot of questions about whether Democrats across the country could have similar success. Do you think it's possible a democratic socialist platform can translate into something that's electorally viable in a statewide election or a national election, given that, according to Gallup, many older and rural voters still have issues with the term, with the label socialist?
You know, what I find is that New Yorkers ask me less about how I describe my politics and more about whether my politics includes them. And I think what we can see is that a democratic socialist politics is one that should be judged on its delivery, like any ideology. And what we're showing in this city is we can pursue the big things like universal child care and do the pothole politics at the same time that we're showing, and not just filling in the potholes, changing the catch basins, but also repaving over 1,000 miles of roadway.
But Mr. Mayor, presidential and statewide elections are often decided in battleground regions that do not look like New York City.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Before I was the mayor, I was an assembly member of Astoria in Long Island City. At that time, I was told that you could only be a democratic socialist in Northwest Queens. Then I became the mayor. Now the next question is the state. Then the next question will be the country. I think that this is a politics that can flourish anywhere because, frankly, there is only one majority in this country. That's the working class. And it's time we have a politics that puts them at the heart of what it is that we're pursuing and not as part of the appendix.
Can we talk about...
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, like, this is why going in these spaces is important, because you need to be comfortable. And the thing about Zoran is he is a happy warrior, but he's very confident and he projects confidence as well as delivering materially. Because they have nothing to say. They can't refute anything he's saying because it's all true. Remember how Zoran Mamdani is going to be elected? He's going to be a mega anti-Semite. Have there been a bunch of hate crimes against Jewish people? Are Jewish people unsafe on New York City street? Oh, it seems like they're not. It seems like they're totally fine. It seems like all the fear mongering was total bullshit.
President Trump for just a second, and specifically your relationship with President Trump. I think you guys raised a lot of eyebrows and people were like, we weren't expecting that, because both of you seem to enjoy that moment in the Oval Office. What is your relationship with him today?
Oh, here we
go.
go.
You talk to him on a regular basis?
Now their plan is
I would say the two of us are in touch. We've
pro-Trump.
had a number of meetings now in the Oval Office, and we are honest, direct about the fact that we have many disagreements. There is one place of agreement that we have, which is that we both love New York City. And that's, I think, something that is at the heart of every conversation we have. It's how can we make this city better? Because both of us have said publicly that the better the city does, the better we feel.
Were you surprised that the two of you seemed to get along well? Because most people thought, no way these two are going to work. No way.
I think in many ways it's a New York story of people who have vehemently differing views and have said many things about each other and can also still work together on the points of agreement.
You have vehemently different views on the war in Iran, for instance.
Absolutely. I'm deeply opposed to the war. I think it's something that should be opposed not just on a political level or an economic level, but frankly a moral level. We're talking about spending close to $30 billion to kill thousands of people an ocean away, while we're told that we don't have even an ounce of that money to help working class Americans across this country.
Have you spoken to him specifically about that?
It's no secret of how I feel about the Iran war. The president and I are very honest about those disagreements, and I'll give you another example.
But I know it's no secret that how you feel because you've told us, but have you two had a conversation about that specific issue?
We've had a conversation about a number of issues, and that includes our disagreements on foreign policy. And I'll keep the frequency and the nature of those conversations private because that's the premise of them. But I will tell you that in those conversations, it is one that is driven by actually being candid. And the last time that I sat with him, I was there to speak with him about the potential of the federal government to invest in what would be the largest housing development this city had seen since the early 1970s. In the same conversation, I mentioned to him, President Trump, that, just this morning, ICE had detained a Columbia student, I told him. And I said that this was part of a pattern of 5 individuals who'd been detained in or around Columbia.
Remember that story?
And I put the list over to him. And then 30 minutes after that meeting, he called me and said, I've made the decision to release her.
Your administration, speaking of the president, you released a plan to eliminate racial inequity in city government, including addressing pay disparities, anti-racism training, other things. The president's assistant attorney general for civil rights called it fishy in a tweet. She called it fishy and illegal. What is interesting about this is your administration is being accused of scrubbing references to diversity, equity, and inclusion in this report. Did you do that to appease the president?
What we did is we inherited a report that had been diluted by the prior administration, one that hadn't even been released, had been stonewalled for hundreds of days. And we strengthened that report because, frankly, the truth is, and that many New Yorkers know, that we can't speak
about... I want you to know, Zohran Mamdani is not left-wing enough. CBS Morning is there to... They're there to tell you, Zohran, he's not progressive enough on race. They got him. He's not progressive enough on race. CBS Mornings, they figured it out. It's so funny when these guys try to pull their fake woke bullshit on the left. It's so funny.
About the affordability crisis if we're not also speaking about the way it's been intertwined with the history of racism in this city. The very same neighborhoods that are being hit hardest by rises in rent and affordability are also the ones that have been overlooked by city government time and time again. So we laid out this plan that's both a racial equity plan for how government can do better and also a true cost of living plan. Now, if you have federal administrative officials who are saying that this looks fishy or illegal, I wouldn't trust their barometer of what's fishy or illegal because they've been doing a lot of fishy and illegal things in the name of the law.
Can we get your
chat? We are 4 hours into the stream and I forgot to chill. If you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you could attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. People who are subscribed to this channel get access to the VODs. They get access to Twitch Rewind, which is the incredible ability to rewind the stream to see moments or conversations that you previously mixed. You know what I like to do, chat? Click onto a stream, click back to the beginning, and then turn it to 2x speed. I could watch the whole stream and then get caught up to the action with the full context. That's available to you as long as you subscribe to the channel. Wow. You could also support the stream by giving bits or direct donations, although I might have to fix my direct donations. I think they broke. No one really gives me donos anymore anyway, but I should check them and make sure they're working. I think there was like some policy change that happened at the end of last month, and I forgot to look. Anyway, thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for the hype train. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a hype train going on. That's your top sub gifter and your top bit donor. Get the hype train conductor badge next to their name, which is a golden locomotive that you get to keep. And let me tell you, chat, whenever I see somebody is a hype train conductor and I'm about to click that timeout button, I go, get out of jail free card. That's a hype train conductor. That's a big supporter of the channel. It's pay to win. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. You gift big. I'm gonna treat you different. I'm bribable. Capitalist Mike. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Tom like a Tom, thank you for the 20 tier 1s. LK, thank you for the 5. Can we get some bended knees for Calm Like a Tom, who just took Yagopnik's 3rd place position for the week? Calm Like a Tom is now 13 subs behind Vio. Can we displace Vio from the top 3? Thank you. Thank you. I ate a pickle on her stream, for God's sake. Why did I do that? God damn it. Son of a bitch. Lisa Dread to Max just dropped a 20 bomb. Let's fucking go. Thank you so much for supporting the stream. Did someone say pickle? Do you guys like, I like pickles. Chat, are you a pickle enjoyers? Are you guys, Jean-Luc Mélenchon is streaming. I know I rated him last time. Are you guys pickle enjoyers? What about, you know what's really good? Pickled red onion. You want to elevate your sandwiches? Get the pickled red onion. Olives suck. That's weak. Olives are good. Pickles are good. You're crazy if you disagree. Vio is wrong. Pickled radishes? Oh, even Vio likes pickled radish. Even Vio likes pickled radish. Old Grumpy. Okay, let's thank all the gifters. Old Grumpy, by the way, thank you for the 5. Slurgo, thank you for the 10. It's Socialism or Barbarism, thank you for the 10. Land O'Lake Knight, thank you for the 10. Only Positive Vibe, thank you for the 5. Sergeant Numbnuss with 48 months, 52 month sub, 48 month streak. Lisa Dreadamax, thank you for the 20. Bryce Lee Wolfie sliding in the 1,000 bits, very wise, getting that Hype Train conductor badge cheap. KLK, thank you for the 5. And I think we're all caught up. Thank you for supporting the stream. You guys are amazing. Let's get back to the content.
Take on the story that's making national news of police officers, the undercover police officers.
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, in Vlad's neighborhood.
Zoran picks Cardi B over Nicki Minaj. There's no question. Cardi B is a quadrillion times better than Nicki Minaj. There is no question that Cardi B is a quadrillion times better than Nicki Minaj. Let's compare the two.
Time is that I went to FDR's house. If anybody loves me, know me, I love FDR.
You love FDR?
Yes, and I love Eleanor Roosevelt. And you know how he got us through the Great Depression with a war.
Mm-hmm.
Only president that got elected 4 times while he's in a wheelchair. As I grew up reading a lot about Eleanor Roosevelt, she had a very sad life. And like when I went to her house, well, she had different house from her husband because, you know, FDR mama, she was always around, like, and she didn't really like that. Like Eleanor wanted her space. Just like me, I want my own space all the time. I saw the room where Churchill and FDR was talking about the nuke. That is crazy to me. Like I'm really here. I don't know why I'm obsessed with war.
Art of War, I could hear it with the aliens.
Yes.
It's in you.
I'm obsessed with World War II. Like, I love World War I. Like, you know, I like reading about that. But World War II, like, I'm obsessed with just learning everything about it. So for me to be in the same room that Churchill and FDR was discussing the nuke, is like, it was just such a moment for me. Like, y'all probably think I'm crazy, but like, it was just like, I love this. I don't know. For a long time.
She is also
of a future in politics after getting a shout out from Senator Bernie Sanders. It came after the 25-year-old rapper did an interview where she shared her knowledge of U.S. presidents. In it, Cardi said that FDR was the real Make America Great Again because, quote, if it wasn't for him, old people wouldn't even have Social Security. And she got a big show of support from Senator Sanders.
Cardi B is right. We have got to protect Social Security for all generations.
Bernie! I mean, comparing Cardi B to Nicki Minaj, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is Nicki Minaj. Let me show you Nicki Minaj.
The utmost respect and admiration for our president.
He's with Erica Trump at Turning Point USA.
This administration is full of people with heart and soul.
Fake ass in every sense of the word.
Who you can see physically beating a man. Turns out this guy apparently hadn't done anything wrong. I want to get your reaction to this and what you think should be done. It's very tough to watch. We give everybody, we say it's disturbing, heads up, very bad, but as mayor of the city, who's in charge of the police department, what do you say about this?
It is
you and the commissioner, yeah.
It is incredibly disturbing, and it is unacceptable. What we are seeing on this video is the kind of behavior that should never be condoned. And I not only have made that clear, the police commissioner has made that clear. It's being investigated as we speak, because as New Yorkers see this is not what it looks like to deliver safety or justice in this city.
I know, but whenever we see video like that, that's always the line. It's disturbing, it's upsetting. I think people want to hear, what are you going to do about it?
These officers have already been shifted in their duty. They've already been put on desk duty. And the point of this investigation is to ensure that we get to the entire set of facts here so that they're actually held accountable, because no one in government should be above accountability, and that includes myself as well.
Mr. Mayor, before you go, Governor Kathy Hochul has been adamant about not raising income taxes on the wealthy, which is key to getting much of your agenda accomplished. How do you get her on board for what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I'm actually really excited that you asked that question. Just a few days ago, the governor announced that we are going to be pursuing the city's first ever pied-à-terre tax. This is a tax on secondary homes owned by non-New Yorkers that are worth more than $5 million. We're talking about oligarchs from across the world. And these are homes that when they're built, developers even tell local elected officials, don't worry, it's not going to be an increase in city services because no one's going to live here. We're going to be raising $500 million for the city directly from this new pied-à-terre tax. And it is a clear example of not only a system of taxation that has been hurting working people, but now one that will be fairer by taxing the wealthiest just a little bit more.
You still enjoying this job?
I am.
You are?
It's truly...
Would you tell us if you weren't?
Everything you expected?
I would blink twice.
All right.
All right.
Blink twice. He's not blinking. Thank you for your time.
What tax? It's a tax on people's secondary properties. So it's got a French name, pied-à-terre, French for foot in the land, aka a vacation home. So if you have a $5 million property or greater in New York City, and New York City is not your residence, you have to pay a tax on that. And it's a very cheap tax. Like it's very good because it encourages people to, rent out the properties or sell the properties into a market for a resident. And you're taxing foreign absentee owners, taking up space. Fuck them. All right, chat. What else did I want? Oh, God. This story is fucking insane. First of all, I just wanted to laugh at this. Key Trump lawyer of the 2020 scam to overturn the election was disbarred in California by the California Supreme Court. But the story that's really crazy, like this story is fucking batshit, is the former lieutenant governor of Virginia just killed himself and his wife. This story is batshit.
Disturbing breaking news out of Virginia. Fairfax County police say that former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax shot and killed his wife and himself in what appears to be a murder-suicide. Fairfax's children were in the house at the time. One of them was the 911 caller. Police say the shooting appears to be related to an ongoing domestic dispute between the couple, who are undergoing what they described as a messy divorce and still live together.
Former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax shot and killed his wife inside of their home and then shot and killed himself. I know he was served some paperwork recently. Apparently the paperwork indicated when he was next to appear in court. That may have been a spark, and detectives will figure that out, that led to this tragedy here. Again, a mother shot and killed, taken from her children, and then he takes his own life.
Police are continuing to investigate. Fairfax, once a rising political star.
Textbook femicide is 100% right. If you are this is the most likely form of murder in the US. Like if you're saying what is the stereotype murder, it would be jilted ex-male partner shoots female or murders female ex-partner. This is the most common type of murder. And the second is some sort of criminal turf conflict. Why? Failed masculinity.
Served as lieutenant governor from 2018 to 2022. We will bring you more as we learn it.
We thank you for watching. And now let's get to breaking news out of Virginia. Authorities there say former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax shot and killed his wife, then turned the gun on himself in a murder-suicide. According to Fairfax County Police Chief Kevin Davis, the couple was in the middle of a contentious divorce up until the incident.
Former Lieutenant Governor Fairfax was recently served some paperwork associated with an upcoming court proceeding.
One of the things that I've noticed is like I've been looking at a lot of short form content lately, and one of the things that I've noticed that exists a lot is like gender warfare content. And kind of related to gender warfare is like cheating anxiety content. That's what I would call it, where it's like so and so cheated on so and so, and then it's like the cheater is now like an accepted other that we can now all attack. And oftentimes people will engage in these like social media hate campaigns based on the word of one person, right? Claiming that the other person cheated. And it is fucking weird, dude. It weirds me the fuck out, because it's like, first of all, none of us are involved in this relationship, and a person can simply lie. A person, if you want someone to be targeted, say they're a cheater, especially a woman. And it's like, there's no like evidence requirement. People will just go absolutely fucking Looney Tune. And again, I am not pro cheating. I think cheating is bad. I think it's a betrayal, a profound betrayal in a relationship, and you should never do it. However, the way that the culture around these kind of anxieties is building is fucking puritanical and weird. It's fucking weird. People treat this stuff as if it is like the same as committing some sort of a violent crime or something. And and I think as Gen Z has less and less relationships and less sexual partners, the anxieties surrounding relationships actually increase. Like the less you've dated, the more you worry about cheating, right? The less, less comfortable you feel in your own skin and your ability to recover from those kind of like betrayals, the more you like you fixate on it. It's fucking weird. And I don't know how to like fix it. I don't even know how to approach it, because like jealousy and anxiety and vulnerability and heartbreak really suck. There's no doubt that those things that could really feel bad. There's no doubt about that. But like the fixation of it makes me very, very, very uncomfortable.
That apparently led to this incident last night. Both of their children, teenagers, the boys older than the girl, were in the house when it happened. So that's horrible news for the family. Certainly a traumatic event for those children to live through. But we know that it all kind of culminated last night when Justin Fairfax shot several times and killed his wife, ran to a different part of the home, and then killed himself with the same firearm.
CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skanga is joining us now. She's following this story. Nicole, can you walk us through the details of this just very tragic event?
Hi, Mugo. Good to be with you. This alleged murder-suicide occurred just after midnight, and when police from the Fairfax County Police Department arrived on the scene minutes later, both the former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax and his wife, Dr. Serena Fairfax, were pronounced dead on the scene. As you heard from Police Chief Kevin Davis, both of their teenagers, their son and their daughter, were home at the time of this tragic alleged murder-suicide. Their teenage son was the one who actually dialed 911 as all of this was playing out. The violence has been linked to some escalating tensions around the couple's separation. We know that they were living together but in separate bedrooms, and that the former lieutenant governor had been served paperwork related to his divorce in the days leading up to this tragedy. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax allegedly shot his wife multiple times in their unfinished basement before running upstairs and turning his weapon on himself in the primary bedroom. Police said he used the same firearm on his wife as he did on himself. And they called this a spontaneous event. They said that things escalated quickly. It happened in rapid succession.
Wow. And Nicole, what can you tell us about the recent history of Fairfax?
Yeah, well, the former lieutenant governor, he was accused of sexual assault by multiple women back in 2019. It was happening at the time that there was speculation he could rise to become the governor. This was linked to an unrelated controversy concerning then Governor Ralph Northam. But these were Allegations were tied to separate incidents in 2000 and 2004. Two women, Dr. Vanessa Tyson and Meredith Watson, had come forward with their stories. Now, the former lieutenant governor at the time vehemently denied these accusations, saying that his relationships with both women were consensual. But this went back and forth for many years. CBS News, we covered all of these events at the time. Now, as for more recent history, police did respond to some sort of domestic dispute that played out at the home behind me in January of this year when Justin Fairfax alleged that his wife had assaulted him. Investigators arrived on the scene. They looked at surveillance video. It's our understanding there were multiple cameras inside the home, and they found that Fairfax's claims that his wife had assaulted him were unfounded and no one was charged. But they did respond to that incident in January of this year.
Yeah, it's just so tragic knowing their kids were in that.
So, we go ahead and say this guy was a piece of shit. And one of the things about divorce that people don't know is that you can indeed leave your partner and you can get support ad litem enacted, right? Like, if you are in an unhappy marriage, if you're in a financial domination, you can, if you contact a divorce attorney, they can, depending upon the resources available from your marriage, from the communal property, get you access to your own independent, income and wealth. Now they had two teenage boys, so I assume that she wanted to stay in the home because of them and making sure that they had the least disruption in their own life. But if you are going through a divorce or a breakup like this, I highly suggest, if you can, get it and get the fuck out there. Especially with DV, you can get temporary spousal support. Oh, definitely. Get the fuck out of there, man.
House, and one of them had to call the police. Wow. Nicole Skinga, thank you for your reporting.
Wait, let's get she's a posting. We're gonna get her, chat. We're gonna help her. We're gonna get her elected mayor. Oh, all right. What else did I want to talk about today, chat? Oh, the blockade. It's just so fucking embarrassing, bro. Like, we have a president and an economy that's just in outright denial, and it feels like everybody's just going la 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 la. It's not happening, la la la, as opposed to reckoning with the fact that oil is cut off from the Middle East. I think maybe that should be a bigger story. I don't know. Am I crazy? What happens if China blockades the blockade?
But first, the latest regarding Iran, what you're watching, what you think investors need to be watching, and how all this translates to Washington.
You're back.
Yeah, well, again, nice to be with you. I mean, I think, just talking to clients, I'm over in Europe this week. Talking to clients, I think the real question, of course, is, the fact that President Trump does seem to want a ceasefire, to continue this ceasefire. He does want an off-ramp. I think the real question, though, for investors is, does that require sort of an escalation to de-escalate approach? So could we see more of more conflict, more bombings and what have you, or is this going to kind of the beginning of the end, and we'll see a real sort of the ceasefire hold, and we'll actually see a resolution. Of course, sort of front and center to all of this as it relates to markets is that Strait of Hormuz going to reopen, and then when it reopens, how long will it actually take the oil industry to normalize? I think this is the real question, is that even if the strait opens, tomorrow and completely allows for cargo to go through, our commodities folks expect that it's going to take weeks, if not maybe 2 months, for the oil industry to actually normalize because of the sort of supply shut-in and what have you. So obviously a lot of questions for investors, but oil is really the read-through for the market. Politically speaking, as we all know, in the U.S., this has hampered the president in terms of both approval rating and then just, folks' perception of, affordability, which continues to be the biggest, question, a biggest issue weighing on voters' minds. So, clearly the political incentives here are to wrap up this conflict. It's sort of just a question of, again, how long that takes, what the approach is, and then, how long it does take the oil, industry to rise.
Yeah, and I want to get into that Washington piece of it and specifically what this means in terms of a clock ticking on policy push now. But first, just one more question on this, because you've been tracking it, and I haven't heard a lot about it elsewhere, and that is the fact that sanctions relief for Russia and now looking to this weekend for Iran is also going to sunset.
Yeah, it was obviously, it sort of quietly happened over the weekend. There had been a waiver issued to Russia, softening sanctions on Russia oil. That was issued about a month ago. That was sort of up for renewal. I think the sort of general conventional wisdom was that it would be renewed, again, because of those political pressures domestically on the president in terms of the price of gas and what have you. And then that waiver was expired, was allowed to expire. And so I think this was in some ways was sort of a head nod to Capitol Hill. Lots of folks on Capitol Hill, both Republicans and Democrats.
Oh, no. Oh, no. No. My boy has been passed for a while. Unfortunately, we have our cats now. I still think of him, my best dog. A physical barrel of oil recently sold in Sri Lanka for $286. What worries me is not the headlines. I mean, oil headline is above $100, $110. Realistically, if you're now trying to get oil from the Middle East, you may be paying $140, $150. Realistically, if you try to get oil from the Red Sea, you're paying more than $30, $40 for shipping. Insurance costs, which used to be 25 basis points, is more like 5%. And war insurance has been scrapped. You're paying 5% without even the war insurance component. So the barrel of oil door to door, or the barrel of refined oil door to door, is way above the headline price of oil. The highest I've seen, and I'm hoping we don't see more of that, is $286 for a barrel of oil that reached Sri Lanka. This is not a country and an economy that can easily afford these kinds of prices sustainably. There is pretty strong evidence of a distressed physical energy market, with the stresses particularly acute in Asia, which gets about 80% of its oil from the Gulf. Signs are emerging that the system may be coming under increasing strain, with 13 million barrels per day of supply missing from the market. European and Asian refiners are competing aggressively for the remaining cargoes, driving spot Brent price, or directly tied to prompt physical delivery than Brent futures, to record highs. Dated Brent reached $144 a barrel on April 7th, surpassing the peak seen on the eve of the 2008 financial crisis. By contrast, the nearby Brent contract for June delivery traded around $109 a barrel that same day. Historically, the spread between dated Brent and front month ICE Brent futures contracts is modest, typically $1 to $2 a barrel, reflecting a smooth functioning arbitrage between physical and paper markets. Today's much wider gap signals a market struggling to source barrels for delivery now, even if it still assumes supply will normalize later. In that sense, the strength in dated Brent is the market's way of signaling that time has become a scarce commodity. Okay, what this is saying, to explain it to you, is that everybody is in delusion mode. People are saying, if you want a barrel of oil today, that'll be $150, sir. But next week, it'll be $100 a barrel. What? Huh? What the fuck are we saying? I feel like there's gotta be market manipulation happening at the federal level. That's honest to God what it feels like, because nothing makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Why is it's stuck on $100? It's like every time it hits $100 a barrel, something comes in and knocks it down. $100 a barrel. It's like, what's going on here? U.S. Navy stopped 13 ships from blasting Iranian port blockade. Like, what do we say? What are we doing here? U.S. forces are pursuing any Iranian-flagged vessel or any vessel attempting to provide material support to Iran. When blockaded ships approach, the Navy transmits a warning. Do not attempt to breach the blockade. Vessels will be boarded for interdiction and seizure transiting to or from Iranian ports. Turn around or prepare to be boarded. If you do not comply with this blockade, we will use force. Those 13 ships have made the wise choice of turning around as we continue to hold this blockade, he said, adding the military hasn't had to board any ships yet. What are we doing? We're in the part of The Big Short where Steve Carell's character is sending his guys to Miami to check out what's going on in the housing market, and they were talking to the stripper who owns 5 homes and going, what the fuck? Oh, yeah.
Hey, there's a bubble.
How do you know?
Trust me, call Bennett. Buy 50 million in swaps on the MBS. What do we got? Garibaldi 4 triple B.
Mark, you sure?
Yeah, it's time to call bullshit.
Bullshit on what?
Every fucking thing.
Man, I wanted the stripper scene. I wanted the stripper scene. Come on.
The market's in an itsy-bitsy little gully right now. It's like everybody said, okay, that was crazy. Let's just all calm down. I sold that house for $350 the year it was built. 2 years later, $480. Then $585, maybe 18 months ago. This couple bought it for $650 last year. He'd let it go for that. Hi, John. It will break his heart, but he'll let it go.
Why is he selling?
Neither one's working right now.
Marlene, you'd say they're motivated, right?
As motivated as one can be in this neighborhood. This house on the left, I'd say they're probably motivated.
Wow, a lot of people seem very motivated.
Oh, it's just the gully. That's all. Just nerves. So where do we stand?
I need to talk to my wife.
This market won't last.
Actually, could I talk to a mortgage broker? Anybody you recommend? Anybody you like?
Yes, I have someone, absolutely.
Yeah, a bitch better like me. Send her ass to Cabo. So is Morgan Stanley recruiting us? Is that?
Oh, no. No, the bank owns our hedge fund, but we're not really a part of it. We invest in financial service companies, and we're trying to understand the residential mortgage business.
How many loans do you write each month?
Yeah, about 60.
Yeah. What was it 4 years ago?
10, maybe 15.
Yeah, I was a bartender. Now I own a boat.
You own a boat.
So how many of these are adjustable rate mortgages?
Well, most.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say about 90%. The bonuses on those skyrocketed a few years ago. Adjustables are bread and honey.
So do applicants ever get rejected?
Seriously? Look, if they get rejected, I suck at my job.
Well, even if they have no money?
Well, my firm offers ninja loans. No income, no job. You know, I just leave the income section blank if I want. Corporate doesn't care. These people just want homes, you know, and they go with the flow.
Good for you.
Your companies don't verify.
If I write a loan on Friday afternoon, big bank is gonna buy it by Monday lunch.
Yeah, same here.
Could you hold on a second?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why are they confessing?
They're not confessing.
They're bragging.
This is the...
Do people have any idea what they are buying?
I focus on the immigrants, you know? Once they find out they're getting a home, they sign where you tell them to sign. Don't ask questions, don't understand the rates.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah.
And you target immigrants too?
Their credit actually isn't bad enough for him. Look, I'm a yield guy. Okay. I make $2,000 on a fixed rate prime loan, right? But I can make $10,000 on a subprime adjustable. Trust me, I'm not driving a 7 Series without strippers. And no one on the pole has good credit, and they're all cash rich.
I think I read Warren Buffett say something like that. No.
What?
Not right.
Who's Warren Buffett?
Okay, so strippers like exotic dancers.
Yeah. Nude, you know, topless.
Strippers.
Yeah.
Then they go meet a stripper and she has 4 homes. But that was 2008, chat. That was 2008. Now, doctors don't have homes. Struggling shoe retailer Allbirds makes bizarre pivot to AI, adds 127 million in value. Someone save me. Someone save me. Mike, make an AI pivot and get 3x subs.
We're talking about 2 loans on 1 house, right?
I have 5 houses and a condo.
Hey, there's a bubble.
How do you know?
Trust me, call Bennett.
Well, chat, what can we say? What can we say? Volatility has declined since the Iran war began.
Had pushed back on that sanctions relief as it relates to Russia. There was sort of a similar waiver that was set to expire this weekend. It does seem that from Secretary Bessent and from other folks that will also expire on Iranian oil. And so this, again, this is, I think, part of a new strategy, if you will, of sort of maximalist economic pressure on Iran, and also, again, sort of a head nod to some of the political pressures on Capitol Hill, where folks really, it didn't sit very well that the administration was providing sanctions relief both to Russia and to Iranian oil.
So how does all of this tee us up here for Reconciliation 2.0, especially at a time where we're going to have to replenish some of these missiles and munitions and other weapons coffers as well, and the numbers are pretty eye-popping that are being thrown around?
Yeah, and I think, broadly speaking, because of these concerns that it will take the oil market some, weeks, if not months, to normalize, I think our view from a macroeconomic perspective is, you look in history, inflation shocks, supply side shocks have, translated then into growth shocks. And so if the economy does slow because of this, then sort of the next logical question is, what is the policymakers' response to that? And could we actually see some counter-cyclical stimulus, particularly given that we're in an election year? Folks are, concerned about sort of the election dynamics going into November.
Stimulate the economy? I think the problem with shorting the economy is like, what do you do with all those worthless dollars when they're said and done? Jesus Christ.
Particularly Republicans. I think that the upshot is we don't exactly know how Congress will respond. There is this reconciliation bill. All of our clients' eyes glaze over when we use the term reconciliation, but just as a reminder, that allows bills to pass with only 50 votes, not 60 in the Senate, meaning it could just be a partisan Republican bill. And that is, kind of gaining traction. That will fund DHS, which, of course, continues to be shut down. People have sort of forgotten about that. But I think the big question is, do we see additional money for Iran? How big is that? Is it $100 billion? Is it $200 billion like the White House has suggested?
Well, it's like DHS is completely useless and we don't need it.
Obviously, that will weigh on the deficit. And then
I work in transportation and freight has dropped by 30%. My hours have gone down.
And lastly, can we see some of that counter-cyclical stimulus should the economy actually slow? Could we see new tax cuts or what have you? I think it seems like what's coalescing is
what taxes are left to cut?
Skinnier bill, a bill that has less of a deficit impact that might be good for the Treasury market. But again, if we do actually see slower growth, maybe not so good in terms of what the economic environment may look like right before the midterms.
Yeah, you take that, you take tax refunds going, or tariff refunds, I should say, being implemented here, and obviously questions about trade policy moving forward in general. And then you have a worse nomination that's now scheduled, a confirmation hearing that's now scheduled for next week, with the possibility that that entire confirmation process is a little bit delayed here. What does it all mean for the bond market?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we've been saying very consistently to our clients, really since the election of 2024, that regardless of who won then, the deficit would be the biggest loser under a Kamala Harris regime and under Donald Trump regime. That has proven to be right. We're looking at deficits tracking at sort of 6 to 7% of GDP on an annual basis, really for the foreseeable future. And of course, as you add back
you just called for more tax cuts.
Tariff refunds, the fact that the Supreme Court did overturn this IEEPA case, meaning that the Treasury has to pay back, at least about $160 billion of refunds over the next 2 years or so, plus the fact that you're going to have maybe more defense spending, plus the fact that maybe you do see, some more counter-cyclical stimulus. This is just adding up to the fact that the U.S. is running very high deficits. And again, this is not a Republican problem necessarily. It's a bipartisan problem because even if Democrats were in charge, we don't think they would likely fix it either. So I do think our view is that there's no real reckoning in the bond market, but it does probably mean that we'll have steeper yield curves sort of for the foreseeable future.
All the hundreds of billions of dollars being wasted on absolute garbage. It's fucking crazy, man. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. We have the reaction podcast. This week, we have our episode on clavicular. If you're ever wanting to understand who the fuck is clavicular, go check out the reaction podcast. I really do appreciate it. main episode, episode 5 on clavicular. Make sure you get in there, hit that subscribe button. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers. Not bad, chat, for the first month. Not bad. 10K subs in the first month. Not bad. Clavicular, is he some Nazi or oh my lord. I would forget, not understand. I'm sorry, chat, but you've got to understand the right. All right, everybody, there's all my links. Make sure you follow me at all the places. I'll see you all soon. Stay safe. Solidarity forever. We're winning. But goddamn, is the world dumber than ever. Peace out.